who are watching. Last week it was kind of snowy. So we can't wait to get what you anticipate for snowfall this year. We're going to record that in the books. But it's 4 p.m. regular session of Town Council. And having said that, Rhonda, do you want to take roll call, please?
Butler?
Here.
Circus?
Here.
Mattson?
Here.
Shank?
Here.
Good.
Here.
Well, good, everybody's here, and every year we look forward to a presentation from Aspen Skiing Company, also known as Ski-Co to many of us. Mike Kaplan and his team. I see Kristen and Steve. Good to see everybody. Good to see you, Steve. Can't wait to find out what y'all been doing up there.
Nothing is usual.
Yeah.
They're hiding in the woods sleeping.
Okay, without further ado, if you want to move forward, Mike, and welcome.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Mayor, and everyone for being here. It's great to see the whole council. Appreciate you taking the time with us this afternoon. As Marky said, we've been trying to think. I think we've been doing this for at least 10 years. We're just trying to do at least an annual update, if not twice a year, especially with you guys, just to make sure we're keeping one another in the loop and sharing what we're up to, and as usual, want to hear your feedback and want this to be as much of a dialogue as possible. So feel free to interrupt and ask us questions and provide feedback. I am joined by Christian Knapp, our Vice President of Marketing, and Steve Sewell, General Manager of Snowmass Ski Area. And then we got a cast of thousands here as well. Over there in the front row behind Julianne and Rose is Alinio Azevedo. I'm not sure if you've met Alinio, but he's the Chief Operating Officer for Hospitality.
Well, welcome.
Yes, he's been with us for 4 months and hitting the ground running for sure. And then next to him is Lindsay Cagley. Lindsay's with Limelight, Director of Sales Marketing, and excited about what's happening across the street here. And then Richard Stetner is the Managing Director of the Limelight.
Welcome to our community.
Behind Alinio is Rich Berkeley, VP of Operations.
We all know Rich.
And of course, Michael Miracle,
Yep, good to see
behind
Mike.
Richard, Community Engagement,
Yeah.
and David Corbin, VP
Hey.
of Planning. So the whole crew. I need a lot of air fire. What do you call
Tell
that?
you if you're
Ground
wrong.
support.
Yeah. They always correct the CEO, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that one, yeah.
No, of course, here to answer questions and
Yeah.
fill in any blanks that I might leave. So diving in, I'm going to give a bit of an update on sort of what's going on across the street and where we're headed overall as a company. As we all know, there's a lot of activity taking place over there, and I think this slide sort of represents the fact that this is really a milestone year for Snowmass. Obviously, the 50th anniversary on December 16th is going to be a great celebration. It's been very, very popular so far. Looks like we're going to have quite a few people up here to celebrate. So it's definitely going to be an all-hands-on-deck event. We're in close communication with the staff and the team to make sure it goes off wonderfully, beautifully, flawlessly, and appropriately, as I said, celebrates everything this community's done in the last 50 years. We also have a ton of stuff going on the mountain and here in the base, and Steve's going to talk about that. You've been hearing from Andy Gunyon and East West on what's going on at Base Village. But, that photo on the right is going to become, or illustration on the right is going to become a reality very soon. And, yeah, the photo on the left is already obsolete, right? It's moving quickly, and I'm just super excited to see all the above happening, and in particular, obviously, the Limelight. And as I've been saying, we've really are excited about Limelight and what it can be in Snowmass. We think we're taking all the best lessons that we've learned from Limelight Aspen and Limelight Ketchum, and we're trying to take what's core to that brand and that experience, being the community living room, creating a real sense of vitality in there with live music and a real focus and emphasis on bringing the community in and welcoming them, and making them part of the guest experience there, us, and also I'd say with a special emphasis here being on families. So we've made some changes to the plan, some tweaks, where there's a really a kid's room, and obviously in the front you have the climbing tower for kids, and we think it's going to be really just a wonderful spot from which everybody, whether you're a local in the community or a visitor from abroad, can come, celebrate your experiences in après ski, and plan the next one in the morning for breakfast. So we're pretty fired up, and I know the team is super excited behind me. So stay tuned, and just about a year from now, we think that'll be a reality. Moving along, we've been getting asked the question why, and Christian's going to talk about this. Why did we launch this Aspen Way campaign and take a very different, I'd say, position in our marketing this year? And I think the simple answer is up here on the screen. It's really about our mission and our values. They're core to the experience, and they really answer the question why. Why are we in business? Why do we get up and go to work every day? And it's something that our employees and entire company are aligned around, and it's really critical, because at the end of the day, we think what makes us different is our team, our employees. I think the whole community brings real authenticity and passion to the experience every day. Again, whether you're working here or just living it. And you know, as you consider that within the business context of what's going on in today's political environment, we feel strongly that we need to speak up for those things that pose, honestly, an existential threat to our business and our way of doing business. You know, obviously a stable climate is critical. Winter is, you know, summer is getting more and more important, but we need winter. We need to continue to have cold winters, snowy winters, and there is something we can do about climate change, and we're going to continue to stand from the hilltops, and not only shout about it, but try to be a model of a business that comes up with solutions and implements solutions. The other thing that's critical for us is the perception of USA as a brand and a place. We are Aspen, Colorado, Aspen Snowmass, USA, right? And we've really thrived on being an international destination, a place where international visitors want to come, and they know they're going to feel welcome, they know they're going to get through customs, and they know that they're going to have an experience that exceeds their expectations and makes them want to come back. And right now, that is not the messaging that's going out internationally. So again, that's why we took a stand, wrote an op-ed, and tried to clarify that we do need to take a position as a business. And when we wrote the op-ed in December, we're still here. It was a really reflective one where we thought about our founders. You know, they went off and fought in the Great War, and they were fighting for what, right? Freedom, tolerance, you know, all those principles that we so enjoy and sometimes take for granted around here. And then what they do, they came back and they started this place, right? They started these ski areas. So we think it's in our DNA, and we think it's core to being able to attract employees and guests, and to sustain this way of doing things. So that's the thinking and position. It's not political. It's not meant to be Trump bashing. It's not meant to say some political party isn't welcome here. It's about saying these are core principles to who we are as Americans, and as to who we are as business people, and we think it's important we stand for those. We've also made some news recently based on our participation in the formation of this new co, or as David Perry said in the paper, I think last week, we're soon going to have to call it Old Co, because we don't have a name yet still, and time marches on. But you know, to be clear, we are an investor in the company that owns the new company that recently acquired Intrawest and all 6 resorts, including plus Canadian Mountain Holidays, Mammoth Mountain Resorts, which is also 4 mountains, and then more recently Deer Valley this last week, also closed. Aspen is owned separately. Aspen continues to be family owned, and we participated in this because, you know, it's getting competitive out there, particularly when it comes to technology and marketing, and the evolving customer expectations of wanting to travel and move around. And we felt strongly that by participating in this new company, being an investor, we could better stay on top of those trends and evolutions in the marketplace. So it's complicated. It's a endeavor that's still coming together in so many ways, as you can imagine. So there's not much more tangible to talk about beyond that, but a ton of work going on right now to develop that and bring that to fruition for a future rollout of what I call customer-facing products and announcements and programming. So pretty exciting, keeping us all busy, but fundamentally it's not changing who we are. As we've been saying for a while, like it or not, the core team is still here. We're not going anywhere, and as you're seeing, we're going big in Snowmass and convinced that Snowmass is the place to be, and I mean that. And you walk around and talk to people. I'm hearing it as well, whether it's new families that moved here, right? Chris Klug and others. People coming up here to do their mountain biking every day or as much as possible. You guys have a great story here, and we're on board and looking forward to seeing Snowmass be all it can be, because I think it's happening before our very eyes. I was going to hand it to Steve, or actually Christian first, talk a little more about the marketing campaign and what kind of traction it's getting, and then Steve is going to talk about what's actually going on up in the hill, especially with the summer improvements. But any questions for me before I hand it off?
I don't have any.
Nope. Mike, at the risk of putting you on the spot, I thought the video that you guys put out was outstanding. We're Aspen. There must have been some discussion about including Snowmass in that as well.
Definitely. Why don't I'll let Christian answer that, because definitely, sorry. He's the advertising guy. Let him answer it. No, let him, he'll get through it and make sure we circle back to that question if we haven't answered it. Okay?
All right.
Microphone a little closer.
Closer.
Welcome, Christian. Good to see you.
Good to see all of you. All right, so thank you for the transition, Mike. I will address the Aspen Way, but let me kind of help with the genesis of how we came to this. And obviously the genesis really started with Mike's op-ed. And we'd endeavored to work with a new ad agency well prior to last winter, and we were starting to concept our new campaigns, and they kind of struck out, to be honest, as ad agencies sometimes do, and we'd sent them back to the drawing board, and over the holiday, they happened on the op-ed, and they were inspired, and they came back to us with some incredible concepts that really resulted in what you'll see today, which was cool, and then also simultaneously, the op-ed hit, and it hit big. We were monitoring traffic on the website. It was absolutely outstanding. I mean, we had it posted as a published blog on the website, and the traffic levels they were higher than like our snow cams, or which are obviously in the winter are the number one thing people are looking at, and that to me was it was like the light bulb went on. I was like, people want more, they want a message, they want to consume this kind of content from us, and it was time to make a stand in our public-facing communications. We've always been making stands as a company, behind the scenes. We've been obviously climate activists, and we've pushed our environmental initiatives, our community sustainability initiatives, social justice initiatives. Those have always been there, but we haven't really been talking about that as much in our public-facing marketing communication, sticking to the more tried and true, beautiful imagery, beautiful shots, ski, action, all that kind of stuff, family, and showcasing our beautiful place. So we thought this was the time. So we took the op-ed to heart, and we came up with the Aspen Way. And one of the things with the Aspen Way was actually producing these installations on each mountain. So sort of art in a place where you could interact with it. And then we went and filmed and shot those installations to be featured now as we roll out. So then the actual campaign, so we focused in on these 4 words: love, respect, unity, and commit. And the Aspen Way, the Aspen Way is the ethos for this valley. It's really an extension of the Aspen idea. It's not, the Aspen Snowmass Way while it would have worked, I think it would have been more cumbersome in terms of, having a really tangible, tight hashtag. And everywhere you see this communications, it's always going to be attached to an Aspen Snowmass logo. But we do believe that the Aspen way, the Aspen idea, that ethos is bigger than just the town of Aspen. It's the way of life. It's what drew us all here. And that's kind of how we stood behind that. The ads themselves, if you haven't seen them, they're pretty awesome. This one is appearing in Ski Magazine. It's a spread in the October issue of the resort ranking issue. Pretty cool. It's also going to be in Snow Magazine, and it was already in Free Skier, and it will appear as a single page in Outside Magazine. And this one really speaks to love, and it's love for everybody. And we speak to how Aspen has hosted Gay Ski Week for 40 years in our community, and we believe that love is between any two people. Respect, of course, is more of our climate initiative, and it's respect for the environment. It's respect for the mountains we live in. They were here first. The ad speaks to that as well. Unity is really a stance around the mountains don't discriminate, and we don't either as a company or a community. And so we very carefully selected snowboards, skis, telemarks, skis to be on there. That ad obviously is featured from the top of Buttermilk. And lastly, commit. This is at Snowmass. This is in the park here. This one is more youthful focused. It's more for action sports. This will be in Trans World. It will be in Free Skier. And, it's really about committing. It's obviously a take on committing to a jump or a steep line or a hike. But it's more than that. It's about committing to your principles. It's about committing to going to a protest or standing up when it's maybe not easy to stand up for something. So that is the series. Those are the 4 ads, print ads. And then all of that leads to a landing page on aspensnowmass.com where you can get all this content. So we have kind of a behind the scenes there. We have all the videos. You can watch them there. And we'll be adding content here with behind the scenes stuff, more interview stuff, a lot more video around what this means to us as a company and to us as a community. So far, so good. Web traffic, we've had 8,000 visits to the webpage where this content is housed. People are spending a lot of time. 3 minutes, 20 seconds on that page is a long time for a web session. And so people are really spending time there. They're really reading into it. They're watching the videos and engaging. As far as the videos, who has not seen the long form video? Has everyone seen it?
I don't think I've seen
Oh, some people in the audience haven't.
I'm happy to show it right now.
Let's go for it because we have people watching because they know that you're here. And
Sure.
the message is very powerful, and I applaud that message. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely awesome.
So there's the one long form, I'll show that in a second. It's a 2.5 minute, that's sort of the anthem piece. That's really ties it all together. And then we have a bunch of short form versions that that are more for quick digestible content on the web to get people to engage, jump over to the landing page where they can learn more. And we're putting these out in paid, organic ways. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views on the videos thus far, and it's just getting going. Let me pull up the video here.
What does it mean to have values? Are they the moral compass that guides the choices you make? Or the voice you bring to supporting what's right and shining a light on what's wrong? Even if that imperfection is within yourself. Having values means all of those things. And we believe there's never been a more important time to live them more openly. To proclaim from the mountaintops what we stand for. To embrace what brings us together as people. Values like love. The unconditional act of sharing your heart with the person you choose, free from judgment or prejudice. Unity, which means overcoming differences and welcoming diversity, working together to achieve more than we ever could alone. Commit, boldly taking action in support of your beliefs, not saying idly by, but doing something to make a difference. Despite being sheltered from much of the ugliness that has taken root in our country and in our world, we feel it. It troubles us. People we care about are feeling marginalized. Our planet's health is in danger of becoming an afterthought. And perhaps worst of all, too many of our conversations have turned into a shouting match. We're by no means perfect. We struggle with our own problems, contradictions, just like anyone else. But imperfections can't be an excuse for doing nothing. So we decided to take action. Last winter, we built monuments to those 4 powerful words. They speak to the world we want to help create. Because we know that when we're free to express our values, to truly live them, the best version of ourselves comes through. It's more than just the right thing to do. It's the Aspen way.
There's your Snowmass.
No, it's excellent. It's
Thank you.
wonderful. It's powerful,
Yeah, very well done.
powerful.
Little known fact, Mike and I are carrying the letters. And
Really?
we were, yeah, and the respect one. It's along with some other colleagues.
The ones that were hanging from the gondola? or-
No, we're on the, no, we weren't up there. That was, you had to be a patroller to get up there. So it's been awesome. We've seen, this is the example of the social media engagement so far. We posted this video a few weeks ago. We've had over 150,000 views of the video so far, just on the one Facebook post. And then we pushed it out internationally through some paid efforts, and we've actually seen a lot of international uptick on it. It's skewing more female than traditionally our audience is as well, which is exciting. So I think we're reaching some new markets, some new folks with this message, and it has resonated. Total reach, so we're obviously, this is rolling out with a hashtag associated with it, and that will continue all winter. We'll have the installations up on each mountain this winter, and we're hoping people really engage with them and take photos with them and use the hashtag and encourage them to talk about the message and what it means to them. We've had almost 300,000 reach so far with the hashtag. And just some examples of, this is a tweet we did. Some of the Instagram, you can see 16,000 views there. And then a lot of locals, a lot of our athlete ambassadors are getting behind this. We're seeing a lot of organic folks just talking about it, getting behind the message and sharing it to their audiences. And that amplified effect really adds to what we're able to accomplish with these campaigns. Media coverage has been pretty amazing as well, and it's not typical you get a lot of media coverage out of a advertising campaign. So Free Skier Magazine has picked it up, unofficial networks picked it up, talked about the campaign. There's Mike in a Powder story that was talking about his article on DACA and some of the issues there. The ads themselves and the creative has gotten picked up on Business Denver. I did an interview last week on a publication called Slope Fillers, talking about the campaign and the background of it. And this is the most recent one, which is an extension, but this is was posted by Outside Magazine last week, and it talked about us, talked about the Aspen Way campaign, talked about Mike's op-ed to the Wall Street Journal. And so we're just getting a lot of press on this. It's going, the legs are long, and it's really getting us a lot of coverage, which is fantastic. I won't sit here and say it's all been good. And I said this at the Accra event when we announced this campaign and launched it, that there would be negativity. I'm not pulling in, so we're not going to gloss over it. Some of the comments are pretty rough. But I'd say overwhelmingly it's been positive. But you can expect some of this, people that think, why are we getting political in our, we're a ski resort. We're selling a ski vacation dream. Why bother getting political? So some of that, there's a little bit of elitism, like, hey, you guys are preaching about this, and you've got all these people with mansions and private jets and all that kind of stuff, and and they're calling us out on that. And the run on the ride was actually a comment on Chris Davenport posted the campaign on his Instagram feed, which has a huge following, and this was interesting. This person actually has chosen to not return to Aspen this winter because they believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and they don't believe that by us getting behind that and publicly proclaiming that, they don't want to bring their business here anymore. So it's been very interesting to watch this, but I will say overwhelmingly it's been incredibly positive. I've been getting emails almost every day from employees, from community members, just saying thank you. It's made them proud to be part of this company. It's been proud to be part of this community, and just really, really believing that we're doing something different and that it's making a difference. And this is a great one. Breaks my heart that Vail isn't like this. And it's true. There's not a lot of resorts, if any, that would do this kind of thing. And we're very fortunate to have leadership and ownership that allows us to make a stand on this kind of stuff. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sewell.
Well, thank you for having us again. As usual, I'll give you a quick rundown on construction projects on the Hill and then give you a quick overview as to where we are up at Elk Camp with the Lost Forest projects. So after 10 years of patrol working out of that dilapidated construction trailer, we finally have a shiny new patrol room to work out of this coming season. This building is right about 1,600 square feet. That includes the downstairs workshop area. On the first floor, there's a large living area with a gas-fired fireplace that'll serve as also a public warming hut. It's where the patrollers will hang out in between their duty runs and all that. Dispatch will be stationed out of here. There's a small office, and there's also a little conference room where we can have meetings of maybe 6 to 8 people and do some training sessions. So, nice new addition. It's sitting on that same footprint as that old construction trailer, so it's in exactly the same spot. Fiber optics. No secret that cell service and connectivity on the mountain is spotty at best. So we've identified a few of the worst spots and taken measures to address that this summer. We've installed fiber optic up the Village Express from the village to the top of Sam's Knob, and then also up the Elk Camp Gondola to Elk Camp. And we're going to see improved connectivity and cell service between at Two Creeks, Elk Camp, Sam's Knob, and Eulerhof. So making some improvements there. We've also got the infrastructure in place to pull that fiber optic cable up to Gwynn's next summer. That'll be the next step. So this, the base village, the Village Express gate array, that's that contraption that when you walk through it, it reads your tickets, and if your ticket is good, it opens the gate. If it's not, you have to stand there and deal with our gate monitors. What we found over the past number of years is that we seem to run into problems, particularly on busy days, if somebody's got a problem with their ticket. And that's not necessarily always a fraudulent ticket. It may be that the media didn't get loaded correctly or what have you. But that gate array where it sits or has sat in the past, it was so close to the load here board that if there was a problem, people would basically hold up the whole line, and we'd end up missing 2 or 3 chairs on the VX. And on the busy days like Christmas and President's Week, when you've got 3 chairs that go up empty, you're really losing the efficiency on that high-capacity lift. So what we've done is we've moved that gate array to the east about 75 feet. So in looking at this photograph, the first thing that you'll do when you get down to the bottom of the VX is you'll go through that gate array. And we're hoping that having that thing that far away from the load board, if there is a problem, people will be out of the way, and people can continue to get in the maze and work their way up front to the load board. So it'll be a departure from the way it's been the last 7 or 8 years. I guess I'm a slow learner. I probably should have tried this before. But the way we're doing this is if it's a complete disaster, I can move it back to the original position before Christmas. I think it's going to work, though. I think it's going to be a big improvement. So, Lost Forest. As Mike said, I think it's been 10 years that we've been coming before council, and I think at each one of these presentations, I've discussed something that's going on up at Elk Camp, whether it's the new gondola, the restaurant, or as the past 3 or 4 times, construction and design of our summer activities up there. But I'm happy to say that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and this may be the last presentation that I speak to you about Elk Camp on. We're getting very, very close to wrapping up this summer's construction, and we're just about done with these projects, and what I refer to as the big three. The first one is the Alpine Coaster. This morning, we were about 99.9% complete on installation of the track. We've got electricians on site that are wiring the motor room and wiring on the bottom terminal. And the plan is over the next 4 or 5 weeks, we'll be doing the finishing touches on this, and we'll get handed the keys to this thing on December 1st. That'll give us time to get licensed and inspected by the Forest Service and the state, get our staff trained up, and to meet our scheduled opening on the first Uller night, which I think is December 21st. And there's a chance that we may get this even before that. So it's been a challenging project, to say the least, but it's coming together very well. The same holds true for the challenge course and the canopy tour. Bonsai, the people out of Grand Junction, been up all summer. They're actually pulling off the hill right now. We're going to meet with them next week, and we'll go through the commissioning process on both of these installations, and we'll actually be able to get up and get on the line and go down all the way down through that canopy tour. So it should be exciting. We'll get our Forest Service inspections and our licensing so that next spring we'll get our staff trained up, and we'll be ready to roll with this as soon as we open for next summer. That previous slide was a photograph of the challenge course, which is in the trees at the top of the magic carpet there, that first magic carpet at the top of the gondola. That's all right. These two shots, the one on the left, that's actually the entry to the first zip on the canopy tour. It's called a sky bridge, and you can see in the background, it goes across. You're probably about 40 feet in the air here, but there's a platform in that far tree. You'll get there, then you'll rappel down to another platform, and then that'll be the first of a series of 9 zips. And I've said this before, but what makes this installation so unique is the fact that most of it is contained in the trees themselves. It's not like it's just all man-made features. Excuse me. That shot on the right is the final tower. There's only 2 man-made features on that entire installation. It's the last 2. That thing is about 80 feet high, and it really is, when you see it in person, it's really dramatic. It's beautiful. Our bike park crew, were able to complete 7.5 miles of trails this summer. That's what we had originally planned on, so they met their target. We were able to complete the beginning of the Verde Trail, so now a beginner bike rider can ride on a nice, wide open, easy trail all the way from the top of the gondola down to the village. They also knocked out Trail 16, and that's a very steep, expert-only, rocky technical trail that goes from the top of the Elk Camp chair down to the restaurant. And then they were working on Trail 14, which is actually a monster of a trail that goes from the top of the Elk Camp chair and will eventually end up in the village. They were able to complete about half of that trail, and so next summer you'll be able to ride the first half, tie into Espresso, and then loop back over to the top of the gondola. And then, of course, with the coaster being done, we'll have all of Vapor Trail opened up next summer as well. So we'll finish up the last 7 miles next summer, and that'll be it on the bike park. We also started work on the foundation for the climbing wall. I don't have a slide for that, but we decided we'd go ahead and move forward on at least getting the foundation done. That should be wrapped up here in a week or so. And we'll cover that up for the winter, and then starting next summer, as soon as the snow melts, we'll get started on construction of the actual wall itself. So in going back to this slide, now that the end is in sight for these activities up here, I'm really confident that these activities at Elk Camp are going to be a game changer for Snowmass in the summer. Mm-hmm. We've been working on these projects, or on the design and construction of these things for a long, long time. And we've tried to work through these things to try to make sure that we had elements up there that were unique and real differentiators between us and our competitors, and I think we've been successful there. In traveling around the state, looking at other installations, I can tell you that there's nothing like this in the state. If you look at this drawing, you can see that all of these activities, they're very close proximity to the top of the gondola. The gondola and the Elk Camp restaurant are really going to be the hub for our summer activities at Elk Camp. And then the other thing that really no other competitor that I'm aware of, these are all tucked back into the trees. So if you didn't know that they were there, you wouldn't be able to see these things. Obviously, the Alpine Coaster, that bottom terminal, that's right at the top of the gondola. You can't miss that. But really, the rest of the installation is in those trees. It's between Gunner's View and Sandy Park. And the same holds true for the canopy tour and the challenge course. So, as I say, we've worked very hard on this, and I think the end result is going to be some activities that are going to give our guests real memories and meaningful experiences. And it's something that's, you know, we weren't necessarily trying to be the biggest or the flashiest, but we wanted to be the best. And I think we've accomplished. I'm very proud of it, and I hope that you guys will be too. And I look forward to taking you all up there next spring and giving you a hands-on tour of all of those activities.
Sounds like fun.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks, Steve.
should be.
Thanks, Steve.
Any questions?
Yeah, I've already been asked, what's gonna, you probably don't know yet, but you might. What's the charge for the Alpine Coaster?
You know, I should have looked that up.
Because
I'm not
I
sure.
mean, people are
I
coming
know.
out for the, you know, the wonderful celebration. Is it gonna be open? Well, maybe, maybe not, and what's it gonna cost?
Yeah,
And it's
Mark,
all up,
we're working through that right now.
Okay.
We're not gonna we're not probably gonna sell just the coaster. It's gonna be a full package
we love it.
for the day. So you'll be able to ride the coaster unlimited on your day pass up there. And you know, and then you can do everything except the zip tour. The zip tour will be a premium product.
Yeah.
It's inventory managed. We're tight on, you know, that. But
Well, that's a great idea.
yeah, we're monitoring the competitors' pricing and stuff, and we'll be announcing that soon. But it'll be a very good value for all that you can do up there. You can spend a whole day up there.
God, you could bring your grandkids out here and turn them loose.
Absolutely.
They wouldn't have to pay attention to them.
Steve, how far up does it go? Does it up to the meadow? Is that where it starts from before you start going downhill, the coaster?
The coaster starts right near the top of the
By
Elk
Gunner's?
Camp chair, right near the bottom of the Meadows chairlift there. And it goes straight up through that timber, goes past the top of Tubetown, and then continues on up about 450 vertical feet.
Okay, so that last steep pitch that should come down on Sandy Park.
Nope, no. So if you're coming down Gunner's View,
Right.
the top of the coaster is slightly below where Bear Bottom and Gunner's View come back together
okay,
there.
yeah, okay, got it.
It's kind of right up there above, just slightly by the Hunter Thompson Shrine. I'm sure you know right where that
I
is.
think I know
Yeah,
what that is.
we all do.
It's still there.
That one might still be there.
I don't know if it is or not.
Okay. Any questions for the team? Limelight on schedule?
Well, I notice Don's not here.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about our new manager that we're going to have here at the Limelight?
Yes, a little bit. You know, these two are going to play a key role, Lindsay and Richard. And we are going to bring a GM on when, Richard? January 1 or so?
Yeah, come up here because everyone's really eager about what's happening.
Sure. We posted the position internally and externally last week. We received numerous candidates and we're in the process of interviewing, and hopefully we'll make a final selection here in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, and then we'll get an announcement out. They look at starting January 1st, and they'll go through an extensive training program and then get ready for opening in November. So a little bit more on that. We're looking to bring on a sales manager January 1st as well to start selling the group side of things for us. And then we ramp up with some other positions first quarter, second quarter, and then most of the staff will start September, October of next year.
Wonderful.
Exciting, very exciting.
And I would add, we want to, promote as many internally as we can without fully depleting, our other operations, right? So it's a balance.
Yeah, we learned a lot from the Ketchum property. I think we transferred 6 internal Aspen Skiing Company employees up to Ketchum, which helped us develop that culture and that brand and kind of bring the way we do things up to that town and then mix them with a lot of local candidates up there, which has been very successful. We hope to do the same here as well.
It's wonderful. Really appreciate the update, and we look forward to the new gym.
Absolutely.
This is an operational question. What type of problem, or are you having a problem with the J1 visas?
The J1 visas, we're not having a problem yet, but obviously there's some talk in Washington about eliminating those or scaling those back. So I would say the organizations are all pretty active on that. National Skiers Association,
Okay.
Colorado Ski Country, Hotel and Lodging Associations. So yeah, we're very much in that dialogue. As you know, we've scaled way back on getting visas for filling any of these job positions. Last time, I don't know if I was alive last time unemployment was this low, but back in the heyday pre-08, we had a lot of H-2Bs as well as J1s. We have, I don't know, virtually no H-2Bs now, maybe 4 or 5. We used to have hundreds, and J1s we use on a very limited basis because they're very restricted. They can either be here after Christmas or they need to leave before spring break. So we have to deploy those thoughtfully, and but that said, they're critical to our ability to, deliver service and have restaurants running and lifts running and all those things. So weighing in thoughtfully, and we would encourage the town to also be a voice in that conversation.
Okay, appreciate that one.
I have a question, Mike. How's Tiny Town doing down there in Elgeville?
Tiny town, I like that.
Okay.
So we've got, I believe it's 36 tiny homes coming in. David doesn't like me to call them tiny homes. They're mobile, small, recreational
I mean, it's a great improvement for what was
vehicles. Yeah,
there for
yeah.
Yeah.
So we think that'll be, those will each be 3-bedroom. And we think that's pretty exciting. Going to make a good dent in our seasonal housing needs, but we need to keep moving and keep going on this.
So you're expecting them to be on board here by Thanksgiving?
Yep.
Open and warm and running water and everything?
Yes. Correct, right, David?
Probably drag into the first week or 2 of December, but yes, that's
Okay.
the intention is for this operational season.
And is there parking spots for these people, or are they basically going to be bus people?
Yeah, we're thinking, it's right on the bus line
Right,
there. We're thinking mostly going to be mass
Okay.
transit use.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's,
I'm just
if you haven't been
trying
down
to
there, it's
eliminate-
like it's an RV park.
Great.
So.
Good. Any other questions? Well, thank you all,
You're welcome.
and I
Thank
hope
you.
everyone
Thank you,
enjoyed the
everybody.
video. and I
Good
hope
job.
our-
Good luck, Richard.
And I hope
Excited. Good. Yeah.
the community enjoyed the presentation, and I'm sure we're going to see excerpts in the paper tomorrow and Wednesday. So glad you're here and moving forward.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for the support to
A
you guys.
lot
and
of work,
team.
a lot of work.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm going to move right into public comment. Do I have anyone in the audience who would like to come forward? Public comment, no more than 5 minutes. I'm going to get it down to,
Your county clerk is here tonight.
huh?
Your
Janice,
county
come on
clerk.
up. I just, boom, it was on my nose. Welcome, Janice. This is a very important update regarding the election.
Janice, come on over to the table where there's a mic for you, please.
There's one there.
Oh, was there? I didn't
Yeah.
see it. I gotta raise my seat higher. Didn't see it.
Janice, welcome, and now you can pull the mic towards you.
Right.
You busy?
Hello, everyone.
Are you busy?
We're busy.
Yeah.
It's
Think?
kickoff time. I want to share that with you. So I'm Janice Boss-Caudill. I'm the Pickens County Clerk and Recorder. And I'd like to share with Snowmass community, there's 2 things. One on the elections, and I want to thank you for another event that we had this summer. But I want to review with you what's going on with elections. We have a mail ballot election. I want to tell you about registration when the ballots are dropped. how you can return the ballots. We do have a voter service and polling center open, and how you can get returns on election night easily. So mail ballots dropped today out of Denver. So they're already going to hit your mailboxes here in Snowmass by Wednesday or Thursday, so look for them in the mail. If you are not registered and you have lived in Colorado for 22 days or more, you can register. You can go online and register at pickandvotes.com. Go Vote Colorado you can go to. You can stop in our office and fill out a paper registration form, or you can download a paper registration form from pickandvotes.com and send it in to us, and we'll register you. We can mail ballots up until 8 days before the election. All right. What's on the ballot this year? So for Snowmass, most important here, Snowmass is the broadband question. There's the Aspen School District candidate races, of course. CMC has candidate races, and CMC also has a mill levy increase question. Throughout Pickens County, in addition, City of Aspen has 2 questions, the tobacco and the Woody Creek water, as well as Carbondale Carbondale Fire District is asking for a mill levy increase, and Starwood Metro is looking at a bond issue. So that tells you what's going on within the county. How to return your ballot. So we have new, just this last year, thanks Clint, is a drop box. We have drop boxes 24/7. They're under surveillance right outside the door of Snowmass Town Hall. Those are open as of today. We do pickups throughout the election, and that will close at 7 o'clock on election night. Ballots have to be returned to our office by 7 p.m. on election night. Other drop-offs are, of course, our office. Over 50% like to drop their ballots off or come and see us. I think that number continues to increase. The other drop-off site is in Basalt, and that's a joint drop box between Pickens County and Eagle. So don't be afraid to drop it off in Basalt outside their town hall. The third drop-off is our office, of course. It's in Aspen. It's the old Ute City building. It's on Hyman Avenue at 501. Our office hours are from 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. Okay, so how do you return your ballot? If you decide to drop it in the mail, people always ask us, and this is the question everyone has the most energy on, is how much. So I always say 2 stamps, but this year we have a lighter ballot. There's less on the ballot, 1 stamp. It's right on the cusp. So if you decide to return more information in the ballot, it'll be 2, but it should be 1 stamp this year. But use your drop box. It's conveniently right outside the door. The other thing I want to review with you is there is in-person voting. So if you decide, we only are required to have 1 service center open, and that is the Aspen Jewish Community Center in Aspen. So early voting starts the week before the election, day before Halloween, on Monday through Friday, and the following Monday, the Monday before Election Day, 8:30 to 4:30. Same time our office is open, the election office. We are also open the Saturday before Election Day at the Jewish Center from 10 to 2, and of course on Election Day from 7 to 7. You can do everything you want at the Voter Service Center. You can register to vote. You can update your registration information. You can vote in person. You can drop off your mail ballot. You can pick up a replacement mail ballot if you want to. So you can do everything at the Service Center. What am I forgetting here? Okay, outcomes. The most important thing, outcomes. When we run our totals a little after 7, so early returns means more outcomes on election night. We download all the ballots we have cast shortly after 7, and the first thing we do is turn around and upload it to the Secretary of State's election night reporting system, along with all other 63 counties in the state of Colorado. So if you go online to pickandvotes.com, shortly after 7, you will see the first returns. We'll have it on the main page. We are required by law again shortly after 9 o'clock to do the second upload, and then our last upload at night when we are finished, and hopefully that's before 11 o'clock. And we will indicate on the website when we have uploaded the last. You'll see that in the system. So you don't have to come to the office, you don't have to look for reports from our office, but you can go right online and get your returns. All right. Now, this is a test for me. Am I forgetting anything?
Janice, would you just repeat the website where you can look at results
Yeah.
on election night.
So if you go to www.pitkinvotes.com, or if you go to www.pitkinvotes.org, it'll take you to .com. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else? Any other
Anything else?
questions? Okay.
There is one other thing.
Oh, okay.
This is late, but still important. I want to thank the Snowmass community for their help this last summer. What a beautiful venue. I hosted the 2017 Colorado County Clerks Association, which had over 300 people attend. And everyone was amazed and thrilled to be here. So I want to thank the community that you have an incredibly beautiful venue hosting such a conference. And I want to especially thank Marky for welcoming
It was fun.
everyone at the opening ceremony. And we had some great speakers. We had Bob Chapman, who heads our community listings for our community. He is named one of the top 3 leaders in Inc. magazine this last year. And he was our keynote speaker. So for Marky, I would like to give you a thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You, the book he wrote this last year. We had some other great speakers. We had the chair of the Election Assistance Commission out of Washington, D.C., Matt Masterson. We had the head of the Pew Foundation Elections Research Arm speak to us. They pretty much come to each one of our conferences, but we have some high hitters there. So it was a great conference, and I received so many thank yous for the welcome that was provided to everybody who visited this community.
Well,
So
you did
thank
an awesome job. Now let's give credit where credit's due. Come on,
I know how
Janice.
to throw a party.
Yeah, you did a good job.
I also want to thank Star Jasmine in your recreation department because she, at 6:30, showed up at the Yin Yang Trail and took a group up to the top, and she volunteered her time. So what a gal. So I want to thank her as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Janice.
Okay. Do I have anyone else that wants to come forward, public comment? Okay, come on up. Tony, about 3 minutes? Because then we're going to move right into a pretty lengthy agenda after this. Yeah, either way is fine.
Okay, for the record, my name is Toni Kronberg, and I'd like to echo what Janice just had to say, that Snowmass, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful resort areas in the whole United States. And I hope that maybe next year when the ski company does their campaign, they really need to name it the Aspen Snowmass Way, because Snowmass is stellar. And I think that Snowmass, you've now moved up to the 4th ranking for skiing, and I think one day you're going to be #1. So I just wanted to put that out. But on the agenda today, it's stated that there was going to be some discussion about the Discovery Center, the Sky Cab, and the Transit Center. So I don't know if it's appropriate for the council or someone to just inform the public as to what is going on with those 3 areas. One of the areas that I would like to make a comment on, but I don't think it's appropriate right now, is on the Discovery Center, otherwise known as Building 6. I'm not sure if you've read Mel Blumenthal's article that was in the Aspen Daily News, where he is encouraging council to take the cash instead of building a building, especially since you're not quite sure what to do with the building. And I definitely echo that, because I don't think that when you're moving into the future that you really don't want to be building a building to build a building for a building's sake. And the one thing that I have really lauded the town council is how there are so many people, especially families, that are coming up to Snowmass, and they really don't want to see a wall of buildings. Once you get inside of it, the new base village that's being built, you're going to have some green space, but you're still going to be surrounded by buildings. And the same thing with the base village plaza. You have that wall of buildings behind you, and you do look into the mountains. My druthers would be that you take the cash, if they need to build a concrete foundation, you put that in place, but I don't want to see you lose the opportunity to take that space and to really create something that's going to serve the community. And maybe you are just going to leave it as open space. But as I've said for years, before Base Village was built, I've worked security up here. Before the buildings were built, when there was just holes in the ground. So I have personally witnessed this evolution, And with the Balloon Fest that was just up here, the glow, I have never seen so many families that come up to Snowmass, but they come up and they leave. They come up and they leave. And that's, for me, that's painful because I think that Snowmass is such a beautiful community. It'd be great to have that space sometime in the future that you could really plan something for it instead of having a shell of a building that you're really not quite sure what you're going to do.
Well, we're going to discuss at Discovery Center and what we're going to do November 1st.
November 1st, okay,
That's when
thank
the
you.
RFPs are due back, or letters, what's RFIs,
Okay.
letter of interest, so an LOI.
Okay.
In terms of building, it's already started
Mm-hmm.
because it serves as the back wall that supports other buildings, so it's already coming out of the ground. And the structural steel, I think, goes in next week or the following week. So it will be a building. So come back on.
Okay, so far as the building, the next thing is that,
Okay, you've got one more minute.
one more minute.
Yeah.
I would like for the council to consider with the Snowmass Center application that instead of the pedestrian bridge connecting the town center over to Base Village, that you move forward with the aerial connection, that you already have the 2 foundations put into place. And then the third thing, you have the EOTC meeting coming up on this Thursday. And again, I think that it's moving forward, that hopefully that Snowmass can be the leader in aerial transportation. And at least we can have a leg of the aerial built from Brush Creek to Snowmass, whether it stops at the rodeo ground, the town center, and then continues to Base Village. And I had requested at the EOTC that I would love for the elected officials to go to Brush Creek Intercept Lot and to do a site visit. And I did not see that posted on the agenda, but it's really evolving, the Brush Creek Intercept Lot. And I know, Marky, that you travel through there quite a bit, so I know I'm preaching to the choir for you on that one. But thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you,
this
Tony.
afternoon.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Do I have anyone else that wants to come forward in terms of a public comment? Next item is draft agendas, and we also have some minutes. I'll ask for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, do we have any item that needs to be pulled out? If not, all in support, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. We do not have any public hearings this evening. Policy, legislative, public hearings, nothing there.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah?
just one, excuse me, but you mentioned that the meeting to discuss the Building 6 was on November 1st. I think that it's on November 6th.
It's the first meeting of the month.
First meeting of the
Yeah.
month. Okay, November 6th.
So just to clarify,
Okay.
that the meeting is November 6th,
Sixth.
the first Monday
Okay.
in November. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I just had a question for John about the Coral law about collecting names for the marijuana survey. You have any more information
Well, then we
on
need
that?
to, we just approved the minutes, so that's it, it's contained in the minutes.
Okay.
Isn't that,
Question, Bill.
Well, it just said in the minutes that you were gonna give us some more information about collecting names based on the Coral law for the survey.
It was the privacy issue, John. Whether or not under the Cora or Freedom of Information,
It was the question. We've got the next input scheduled for November 13th,
okay.
and so we haven't, I mean, I don't know, I doubt John has, but we haven't pulled together that packet of information until November 13th.
I knew they were preparing it, Bill, but I haven't been asked any questions other than what you just asked, and I'm not familiar with how the outreach piece, survey, whatever you want to call it, is being designed.
okay, thank you. Let's move on into administrative reports. First item, are we going to do ELTC first, or are we going to move right into the SOB? Clint, what's your suggestion, since I don't see David here?
If we could do the EOTC at the 8D, the last budget
Okay, okay. Down by budget discussion. Well, welcome, Julianne.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about, for the listening public, This is the resolution number 36, 2017, a resolution approving the Snowmass Arts Advisory, also known as SOB, strategic plan. Okay, Julianne, you'll do the presentation this evening. Do I have anyone from the audience that's on that board?
Nope.
No, okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you may recall, we met and discussed this back in August 21st, went through the draft with you. There were a number of comments that I received from you at that time, and I tried to incorporate those comments into this latest draft. There were just some minor kind of cleaning up things, like indicating who's currently on the SOB board versus who's a past member. We also added some information that was requested about the Colorado creative industries. So I added a paragraph regarding that under the grant section of the strategic plan. We noted that the 2002 Art Walk was inserted for historical context and reference only, that really was just an information item as an appendices. So we did include that, and there were, you received some comments by Pat Kiefer that a lot of those had to do with that document. And I think that she wasn't aware that that was a document that had been I don't even know if it was adopted, but it was a document that's no longer, part of this plan, the strategic plan. This was really intended to be an appendices that showed what the SOB had done up till this point. So I just wanted to note that for the record. We also included some language in here regarding possible funding sources in that section about the lodging and marketing tax. Sorry, Rose. We also added that an action item for the SOB would be the identification of locations for art along the Brush Creek Park, and included links to all the appendices, so it's a little bit easier for anyone who's using the document to quickly go to those appendices as they're working through it. And then lastly, we added some further information regarding how the town of Breckenridge has funded their program in the past. They are probably one of the highest funded public entities for the arts in Colorado. I did have a conversation with staff at the town, and how they explained to me is that the nonprofit was created specifically as being they handle all of the arts, but all the funding from the town gets funneled into them, and then they take it from there essentially. But that included both public
and private
performing arts,
right.
And like their theater, they have a very active theater program, as well as visual arts, et cetera. So that's basically, the town just gives them the money to be able to fund that. As far as I know, they don't have a separate marketing and tourism office.
No, they don't.
So,
Breck.
separate?
Is it a town office? I thought it went through the chamber.
This chamber. So anyways,
That's the
that was what I had found out. So in their budget for this past year was 2.3 million, so it was a little bit higher than what we had in our table previously. So just to really summarize, the draft strategic plan has essentially 3 parts. The first part summarizes what the SOB's duties are, their mission and goal, what their vision is. The second portion of it is the extensive appendix, which is essentially resources for them to tap into as they're doing their strategic plan. And then the last appendices is Appendix K, which is essentially the working document portion of the strategic plan, which they will be using on a monthly basis to evaluate where they are and what projects they're going to be tackling in the course of the coming year. So with that, we've included Resolution 36 for you to consider, which we, of course, recommend adoption of.
I had several questions, of course.
Okay.
Thank you for all of your work. I can see it had the Julianne Midas touch going through from the first draft. Yeah, come on, take credit. You've done a lot of work. When we're talking about that creative,
Colorado Creative Industries?
yeah, and applying for that, I think you have in here that the goal is to apply to be a creative industry. Can you do that as a town government?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. And it's to apply to be designated a creative district.
Okay.
It is up to the state to decide if they're going to continue with the program or not. Last year, they were debating whether to continue with it or not. They did continue with it. So there have been some additional communities that have been added to that designation. But it's a year-to-year thing. So I think it's been quite successful. I have a feeling that they'll end up finding that it's going to be beneficial to continue with the program. But our goal is to
Therefore,
monitor
you
that.
can apply for a grant if they recognize us as a creative.
If you get designation, then you qualify for assistance from them, as well as financial assistance through a grant.
Okay. And then there was also a recommendation tying a percentage back to developers in the future.
That's the percent for art program. And there's two different types. There's one that is often operated by municipalities, where a percentage of capital improvements require a set aside, usually above a certain threshold. And so if you had a public project that was going to be, $500,000 or something, and it was appropriate to have art, then, 0.5% or 1% of that budget would be allocated to install public art as part of that project. The other program is for developers essentially to pay a portion, a percentage that would go towards public art. That program, the public program, I think, is a little bit easier to be able to create and to get underway. The developer side of it has more challenges to it. And I think that since most developments end up going through planned unit developments in a lot of communities, the research I found is that less and less communities are going that way because they have the ability to ask for that typically in the course of somebody going through a development proposal project, that they could ask for public funding.
Is a community benefit?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So there are some communities that have it, but I'm just saying that less and less are doing it from the development side, and I think that they're just doing it through a PUD. If there's a PUD that something is going through, that's the time that they ask for that.
And there was some suggestion in the plan about the 501c3, the Snowmass Arts Fund, or whatever we call that fund.
Snowmass
Community
Community Fund. I had to get it from John.
Snowmass Community Fund.
Yes.
If that's the direction that we do want to think about a 501c3, based on some conversation, it may appear that we need to get our own 501c3.
I think it's going to depend on what it is that we would want to be using it for. So, as I understand it, that was the mechanism that we used in order to accept the one piece of art.
Yeah, that's the issue, one piece of art, and additional funding that can't be put into a fund for future designation. So, anyway,
Okay.
that's a conversation that needs to be furthered. And it appears that Brick went through similar steps as what we're going through in terms of getting to that point with a 501c3. And
Yeah.
after reading their history and
Yeah, and I should have mentioned that we did include an attachment for you to read. And I went ahead and highlighted the sections I thought were more pertinent to your question related to, formation and how it was funded,
read the
et
whole
cetera.
thing. It's an excellent document.
It's an excellent doc. I agree with you. It's very well done. And I would say that, you know, Breckenridge program is a lot more mature. I mean, they've been around for quite a long time than where we are right now, but I think we, you know, aspire to be as successful as they are currently. So that would be our goal, is to head in that direction. And you probably saw in the action plan that, you know, the SOB wants to be able to look at the possibility of creating a 501c3 and kind of getting it further along, and maybe a part-time, you know, executive, you know, person who would help run that, et cetera. We just thought that that was a little bit further down the line, that they really need to kind of take care of more housekeeping types of things now, and, you know, be able to kind of get their ducks in a row before they make that their real focus. But I could see, you know, in year 3 or 4, that's probably where we're going to be looking in and investigating more.
Okay.
See if that makes sense.
What other questions? Yeah,
Julian,
Tom?
the general fund, that's a very generous $2.3 million allowance to think about. How, and you had said they've matured quite a way. How long have they been getting this $2.3 million? Where did, you know, and you know what I'm saying, like in the last, starting from the recession, from 2007, 2008, where were they at then, in the last 10 years?
I can't directly answer that question, but I know that their funding has gone up as each year has gotten better. They were really clear to me that it isn't allocated as 2.3 million every year, that it depends on, you know, how the town is doing and all of that. It is general fund.
Right.
But each year it has been going up. So last year I had reported in here, I think it was 1.9, and this year it was 2.3.
And, you know, SOB is basically asking for $25,000, and, you know, which is like, you know, peanuts to where Breckenridge is, of course, but.
But Breck is also all of the performing arts, so it's a marketing.
No, I understand.
It's
There's a
marketing and-
building there, and.
They
I
have
mean,
facilities they
Yeah,
gotta
they have the
support.
facility.
And they have
I
ticket
totally get that,
sales.
you know, and they've got
They
plenty
work
of
as a chamber, basically.
news coverage, media coverage,
And they're
everything.
much closer to a metropolitan area
Right.
than we are. I quite honestly, I think that if we looked at Carbondale as being an example,
Yes.
that we would want to, you know, kind of take some guidance from, because they're a smaller town. They've been quite successful with their annual fundraiser, and that's what, you know, Mountain Fair is all about, is that's what really funds their program. There is contribution from the town as well, but it's more along the lines of what council is generously considering in this year's budget. So.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
So Julianne, I mean, I was very impressed with the Breckenridge Art Master Plan. And I guess the first thing that came to my mind was, what did SOB what did SOB take out of that master plan and incorporate into its strategic plan and acquisition policy? Because I didn't really see a lot, but I was hoping that there would be some.
Actually, the Breckenridge plan came out recently, and SOB was already well through their process with their consultant to begin their strategic plan process. So we did not have that resource available to us when we were going through this process. I certainly intend to make sure that all of the SOB members have it, now that we've had the research, you know, at your, you know, request. Get it in their hands so they're familiar with it, and they can see what other communities are doing with a slightly larger budget.
Well, I mean that the budget thing is only one part of it, and you know what you can do. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a foundation from which the SOB can operate, and you know, going forward. And there are a couple of things particularly that stood out to me. One was their vision statement, which was very short and sweet, and it basically just wanted, let me see if it talked about engaging in insightful conversation through the arts. And I thought about discussions that we had when we were talking about the sculpture on the roundabout and, you know, defining what's art, right? We had all those kinds of discussions. And it seems to me that that statement boils it down so clearly. Just insightful conversation about whatever it is. So I guess at the least, I'd like to incorporate some language similar to that into our vision statement. And I guess, and the other area of the BREC plan, which I guess struck my attention, was their processes and guidelines for all the different kinds of, first of all, the different kinds of art and the different, opportunities, like we have, donation and part-time and full-time, loans and so forth. And I thought that their guidelines were probably a little clearer than ours, as they're written. But that's just a comment. I don't, if you want to send that back to the SOB, certainly things can be tweaked, going forward.
I looked at a strategic plan, which this is. When I looked at that and compared a lot to the BREC, and then realized the BREC program was over 20 years old, 20 years old that the town was involved and the evolution of that program, I thought, my thinking is a strategic plan is always fluid. And knowing that our SOB board has had multiple starts, stops, because commitment to funding, that we need to have steady funding. In order to do that, we have to dedicate ourselves to some fiscal responsibility of funding public art, and people will sit on an arts board if they know that they're feeling supported in terms of funding and the opportunity to make some decisions around public funding and ongoing art. You can't have a start, stop. And for 10 years, we had a start, stop. And I think this is the opportunity with, there could be tweaks to the document, but let's get something approved that allows the SOB board to move forward. That's where I finally landed last night on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. I thought in one respect of, of developing a fundraising concepts, I don't think we have anything we can sell tickets for, okay? As again, something
that I'm aware of.
Right, that's right. However, if, we do talk about and we do have loans of art. And I think I would like to propose that we include some commission of sales of those loans, some commission back to the SOB board, if that's the appropriate group, or the town if not. But it's some opportunity. I doubt it's going to raise much money, but maybe I'm wrong. But it's some opportunity to raise some additional funding. And I certainly agree with you, Marky, that we have to be willing to commit on a regular basis. So
the Carbondale program does have that commission there. If somebody sells a piece that's on their public display, there is, it's a small amount, but I wanted to say it's maybe 5 or 10% commission that they get from the sale of those pieces.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
In talking to the chair of that board, yeah.
I mean, the other comments I have are primarily just wording, and there's one area where, in that application, where specifically it relates, two of the pieces relate to sculpture, and I wasn't sure if that's what was intended or if those things related to all art.
Yes, that was probably an oversight.
So
it's pertinent to all art.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a last-minute addition because our SOB is working on trying to acquire something in recognition of the 50th anniversary, and so we quickly got the application together and sent it out to the folks that they've been chatting with.
So I guess my question is, do you want those types of wording things because it's not in the resolution. They're not in the resolution, they're in all this attachment stuff. Do you need,
If you have minor tweaks or what have you, that would be helpful for us to clarify if,
Yeah.
staff is okay with
Yeah.
that, but it's up to council
That's,
to
I mean,
decide.
look at the big policy issues and tweaks.
okay, well,
We get the wording tweaks over to Julianne.
you want me to just send them,
That'd be great.
send them to you? I can send them to you with some little notes on it.
Tom, did you have?
No, I have not been to the Breckenridge community theaters and stuff that they have over there, but I've seen pictures of it after reading through this, and have archived through 9 News some of the information that they've done in the springtime this
Yes.
past year, and what they've done in the past few years, and for some of the local artists that have been doing different things. It really sounded like a lot of fun, and they're having a lot of fun in that town, so I am in favor of it, so
Yeah.
I
It's-
think
it's
it's
definitely
time for us to move forward with this.
I think it's bringing a lot to Breckenridge, so.
Other
encourage
members
you
of
to
council?
consider
Lisa?
passing it.
Bill?
I have a lot of comments, but if Bill has any, you can go.
I just had a couple questions. You made mention of the identification of locations along Brush Creek Road for art installations.
Brush Creek Park,
Brush Creek Park.
which is essentially Brush Creek, the creek along, locations along Brush Creek.
Okay. Is there a plan to identify along Brush Creek Road as well?
That was not part of this, of the suggestion, but we could certainly broaden it if there's an appropriate place along the road. We could consider that.
I think it would be interesting. I kind of go back to that buffalo outside of Carbondale, just kind of draws my eye every time I go down there. I think it's interesting. When Leah Moriarty was here, she was making mention of, kind of that guttural response of like, oh, how did they do that, or where did that come from? I think it's interesting. So I think if that could be added, that would be great if
I
there's
think
an
that's
opportunity for
appropriate.
that.
I think that's a good suggestion.
We talked about the community fund. Also in there refers to, there seems to be a lot of names for the South Rim Trail. Some people call it the Yin and Yang Trail. We have it signed as the Labyrinth Trail. Some people call it Stark Sacred Site. Some people call it Yin and Yang. So I think we should probably just be consistent with the naming of that. And since it's named as the Labyrinth Trail on our signs, maybe just to be consistent, we follow that.
I've always called it the South Rim. See? What do I know?
There's like, everybody calls it something.
Okay. Alyssa?
Okay, so the little things I'll send to you, the little like spelling things, like you said, but Appendix D, it is talking about collaborators. And the one collaborator I noticed was missing, unless I just didn't see it, but was the schools. I feel like the schools are an excellent collaborator for art. I mean, we could do lots of really neat things. I mean, they have these art shows and different things around town. I mean, it might, students make really great art.
Well, and they're the ones that did the fencing over there. That was Kids Art when we had Related here. And that one
see?
whole panel was
So,
kids.
I just feel like that wasn't, I didn't see it on the collaboration list, but I feel like reaching out, especially to, high school and middle school and elementary
Great
school
idea.
art teachers and seeing, I mean, even just filling the halls in town hall with some fun, different things from time to time. I mean, it's worth it to have it as a collaboration. And then on the page where you're talking about the sculpture naming contest, it said,
What page are you on?
so
'Cause
this is
I know
so
I read
hard to
it.
see. It says 16, 17, or 43, depending on what you're on. It's 43 in the red, 16, 17 on I legislate. But it's talking about the contest naming, and when I read it, it made it seem like Saab was making the selection. And I thought it should be changed to recommendation, not selection. Right?
Yes.
Okay. because that's, I mean, I know we've talked a lot about that, so I just wanted to make sure that this was consistent with everything else that we had talked about.
Got it.
And then, what was the other thing? Hold on. When we were talking the other day about budget, and I was asking about the stage that's in the, the stage where the Thursday night concerts are, I feel like that wasn't really, it was briefly mentioned in the document, but I feel like it really could be one of the kind of focuses of the advisory council to help bring in plays and other type things to that stage when it's not being utilized, because I think it's pretty underutilized. And I can't remember exactly where it was briefly discussed, but it wasn't, there wasn't a lot of mention of it. So that was one of the things that I kind of,
I think, is that stage a purview of marketing tourism or purview of the town?
We're all the town.
We're all, well, I know that.
However, there's a huge, turn on the lights.
You need
Please,
to-
the microphone. Thank you. So the tourism manages the stage, but that's a town asset. There's a significant cost for, I'll call it turning on the lights on the stage, raising the roof, getting the sound system up and running. So we just have to weigh that in terms of the cost benefit of utilizing that stage. Sometimes it's more affordable to bring in a stage, like for those of you who went to the Balloon Glow, that kind of stage that comes in on a truck is a lot cheaper than activating the Fanny Hill venue.
Okay.
Just depends.
well, I just felt like in any case, there was sort of that element of the arts was kind of missing. And I did like in the Breckenridge packet how they broke out the different types of public art. It sort of detailed them, and I thought that was really helpful because I mean, it kind of guides the different types of art. I don't know. I like that section in their policy. And then I think my other questions were about the art acquisition, which we are not talking about yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay. So
We're just doing the plan right now.
I think that was it. But I think it's great, and I think it's great how it's coming together. And I am excited for all the things you have coming up.
Okay, so, having said all that and had some comments, and Julianne, thank you for walking us through the questions and the answers. Do I have a motion for approval of this document?
Marcy, there's a hand up.
Whoop, I'm sorry, I gotta take public comments, hello. Hold on, just a minute. Yes, Clint?
I was just saying, and because of the way the amendments on line 46 of the resolution, it says adopt a strategic plan as set forth in Amendment A, Attachment A. We should probably just say as set forth in Attachment A and amended this evening, so we can just, we'll get all, that way we can work all your amendments in there. But that's a detail. Take the comment first, and we'll help you with that motion in a second.
Okay. Before we go there, I will open for public comment.
Come on up.
Come on up to a mic. Name?
Hi, my name is Maren Coker, and my first question, is it amendable after the art plan, which I apologize, I just found out about it today. Is this document approved for the year, or can it be updated or amended after you vote?
Yeah, documents such as this, what would happen, see if I get this right. The sub, this is a working document, even though it's approved. As changes are appropriate, they would bring them forth to town council for consideration and approval.
Okay, because I just do have one comment to make. Of my background, I'm an art historian, art advisor, and very involved in the
Be
art
careful.
But what I was going to offer to do, and just to make a public comment, we're like, no, we're not really comparable to Breckenridge or any other community, and that particularly during the summer months, we're home part-time to some of the world's top art collectors, contemporary art collectors in the world. And I think it would be lovely to be able to take advantage of that, and I would love to volunteer to help to perhaps connect to some of those resources. And I think if it the community might want to consider tapping into some of their part-time residents. And I think with you mentioned the consideration of a 501(c), then it's a tax write-off. And I think that might be a really wise thing to consider a bit further, because not only for loans, but you might be able, the community might be able to tap into world-class, fabulous art.
That's wonderful.
Deal. Done.
Deal. So you know what I do appreciate? Coming forward and telling us about your background and your commitment to art within a community, et cetera. So if you can, Julianne's probably already, she'll want your card.
I'm going to give her my card.
Because we do want you involved, and citizens within our community, we want them involved, even if you're part-time, full-time. Don't even have to live within the community of Snowmass Village to be on this board.
Well, I suspect many people that are here part-time, quite honestly, if they don't drive into the village, they just blast straight into Aspen, because, you know, Aspen is largely considered the world's best summer camp for adults for a lot of people that come and own homes here, too.
I call it Adult Daycare Center.
The what?
Adult Daycare Center is Aspen in the summer.
Yeah, but there's really no reason. I'd love to see Snowmass be able to take advantage of this with all the fabulous things that are going on here right now, right?
Yeah, well,
for arts as well.
so it's wonderful, wonderful. So really appreciate your comment. This is a working document, as all plans are. Our town budget is a working document, and so, and I think you've got Julianne's card. So please give her a buzz.
I surely will.
Thank you,
care.
Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you. So do I have a motion for approval of resolution number 36?
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Thank you.
And
Do
before
I-
we vote, that's with the change to say set forth in attachment A and is amended tonight.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are you fine with that? Set
That makes
forth
me
as a-
happy, thank you.
But who made motion second?
Oh, Alyssa made the motion and then Bill second.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're
And with
welcome.
Clint's little edit there.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in support, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next item is resolution number 35, which is the resolution approving the recommended Snowmass, or SOBS, Arts Acquisition Policy, and that's on page 179 of our packet. I'm going to, Alyssa, you had some questions on the acquisition?
Yeah, hold on, I'm going back to them.
I'm just, hold on, I got to pull it up.
Hold on, let me just open it up. I guess, I mean, one of my things, and Bob sort of addressed it before, was why it's focused on sculptures.
No, I can't see it.
It seems, hold on, let me see if I can find this. This thing is not easy to find. I'm trying to go to the page and see if that's where I wrote nothing on it. This thing is so hard to see the numbers. Okay, I think it was here.
I have to find it, I saw the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I saw it, but it seems like that whole art acquisition, maybe it's the application or wherever it is very focused on sculptures. I mean, it should be applied to
Broader.
paintings or, yes.
Yes.
I mean, you just need to take sculptures out. It's just because the most recent thing was a sculpture, it doesn't mean that they're all gonna be sculptures.
Yeah, all the acquisitions have been sculptures of some type, so I'm sure that's where the thinking was, but you're absolutely correct. I totally see
Yeah,
what they-
I thought that was a typo, actually, myself.
So it just needs to be changed, I think, to include the broad,
Okay.
reaching section of art. And then, hold on, and that one, it must be at the beginning, where the title, it's just really hard to read this. Where it says, it's at the beginning, on page 89/186. It says, public art acquisition, and then underneath it, it says all art acquisitions. And then it says donations and bequests, and it goes through the different letterings. But I just don't understand why it says all art acquisitions. Like, isn't that what this whole thing is about, acquiring public art? I just didn't understand, like, if I was missing something.
The only reason that that was added was just to make it very clear that everything's going to go through this policy. That was why the all was installed or was added to that.
Okay, but the whole thing says public art acquisition. I guess I just didn't understand it, and then I thought maybe I was just misunderstanding something.
I think there was an emphasis on all,
Okay.
but, you know, it's duplicative in terms of intent.
Okay. And then on page 22,
And
2223/201.
201.
It says, do not meet the goals and expectations. Let's see what it says. Reject any or all submissions if it feels the proposals do not meet their goals and expectations for the projects. Expectations like set forth in the project. That's all. I just thought it sounded funny. But I think that was it.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch where you were.
It feels the proposals do not meet the goals and expectations for the project. I just said the goals and expectations set forth in the project. It just sounded funny to me the way it was.
What page is that?
This is 2223 / I don't know what. It's so 201.
201.
Yes.
It's hard. The number doesn't stay up.
It's a note, the selection's right in the middle of the page.
Right.
Of 201.
Okay,
You
it's
got it?
bold, yep.
You got it.
And you didn't want it to say if it feels the proposals?
I just
It's an awkward sentence.
yeah. I said change to do not meet the goals or expectations set forth in the project. I don't know. It sounded awkward to me. I mean, you could change it to whatever you want. It was a weird sentence. It was bothering me.
Okay.
Alyssa, while we're on that page,
Yeah.
if you don't have anything else,
No, I don't.
under the artistic merit, the first bullet under B, where it
Okay.
says artists must have sustained visual arts practice. So when I read that, I interpreted that to mean that the artist had to be alive, because if the artist was not alive, they didn't have a sustained visual practice. But they could still be something that we would want.
Okay.
What can I tell
Well, I
you?
don't know how to respond to that, Bob.
No response necessary.
And in that same whole thing with the selection criteria, I'm sure you're aware that the lettering is completely off.
Yeah, I did a cut and paste from our policy, so I'll have to look at both of those just
Yeah.
to make sure that they're both accurate.
You make me laugh.
It's good, laughter is good.
Right, keep it light.
I didn't get that deep into, is he alive or dead? Julia, you can deal with that, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sure.
Okay, so, anything else on this policy?
No,
That DOA? God, we gotta love our sense of humor. Okey dokey, so do I have a motion to approve the arts acquisition policy with the minor language tweaks?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Tom. All in support, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julianne. I know
Thanks,
this was
Julianne.
a
Big
labor
project.
of love, this one.
It was a heroic effort.
Labor for sure.
It was, I'm very happy that you took action tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, marketing, group sales, special events, and while Rose gets ready to come up, do y'all need a short break, or y'all fine?
That'd be great, like very short.
Very short,
Okay,
yeah, very
shorty.
short.
5 minutes,
Thank
Okay.
you.
and be mindful of the word five.
No problem.
because it always winds up 15. looking forward to this.
Pleasure to be here. I'm Rose Abello, the tourism director. here at
Welcome back from
Snowmass.
Italy.
Just got back from Italy. Ciao, everybody.
Did you have a good trip?
Fabulous trip.
Let's first talk, where'd you go?
Sardinia.
Oh, my gosh.
Intensive language study.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
For how long?
You're gonna do this presentation in
Si.
Italian?
yeah,
Would you know the difference if she didn't?
yeah. It's actually, I've translated all the money into euros, so all the budget numbers are in euros now, so hopefully that'll be great. Well, thank you, guys. I know you've been through a lot of budget talk already. So I've prepared, I think I emailed you this short little PowerPoint about our budget discussion. I've tried to throw in some things, because, you know, us marketers have to show some fancy pictures and videos and stuff, so you'll see some of that as well. So what I wanted to do really today is kind of walk you through of sort of what's new and what's changing for next year, and then a little bit about how we plan to fund the changes and what the shifts are in budget to accomplish what we want to do. So first, we'll start with this winter season, what's new, what's changing. So I should first actually back up and say our board met this morning, the Marketing Group Sales and Special Events Board met this morning, and they unanimously approved our plan, our business plan and our budget, what you're going to see a little bit of today here. And we were able to have a retreat in August, a day-long retreat, and we really got some great input from the board, and are able to we presented some ideas from that retreat about a month ago to the board, and then that's what you'll see in this. So one thing we talked about is really, what can we do in Snowmass Village to keep people here longer in the winter at the end of the ski day? And we've had our VIK program, Very Important Kids Snowmass program, for a few years now. It's been successful. And a couple nights we do s'mores, a couple afternoons. So we're going to step it up a notch, and we're going to do daily s'mores both at Base Village and at the mall. And these are not going to be ordinary s'mores. So that little thing that looks like a marshmallow, we've ordered 2 of them. There'll be one up at the mall and one down in Base Village, and it's going to be totally branded with the Snowmass S'mores logo. And we want to, and what's you see on the right is not ours. That's from Pinterest. I just, you know, but we don't want to offer just regular s'mores. So we've had some fun. We've got some marshmallows. These are way too big that say Snowmass on them. We've got some graham crackers that have the aspen leaf on them. So we're going to really dress up the s'mores and make it super special. What we're thinking is that we'll have maybe 9 or 10 different flavors, and we'll serve about 3 of them each day. So you might want to come back the next day to see what the flavors are and things like that. They'll be free and they'll be every day. So that's going to cost some money, and you'll see that. In terms of the winter, the board recommended, and we really wanted to evolve our sort of a monthly event. And so in December, we obviously work the holidays, and this year we have the 50th, and you'll hear more about that in a second. Mardi Gras, St. Patrick's Day, and really sort of a big closing weekend, and to really try to beef up our closing weekend. And then for next December, a year from now, December of 18, we've allocated some resources to try to bring in another event the same weekend that the 50th is this week. We think that strategically that makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. One is it allows our stakeholders, lodges, retailers, restaurants, to gear up for the holiday week instead of starting from 0 to 100. If we can move the needle a week early, just for staff training and getting everybody up to speed.
Good idea.
So we really, we'll talk about the 50th in a minute, but we want to find something for that December. And then this winter, we are concepting a new advertising campaign. We have used, and I'll show you in a minute, what we call the Run Away With Me campaign. You're probably all familiar with it. We've used it for a couple of years. We will use it this winter season, next summer, and then this winter season, we're shooting a campaign that will launch for the 18-19 season. And then that'll be the campaign for next summer. We've had just preliminary meetings about what that might look and feel like. We feel that the timing of that is right on, because we have a lot of things that are going to happen next season with the Base Village completion and the Lost Forest opening. It feels like about the right time. I think when Christian was here and Skiko was here, about every 3 years is about the right time to change a campaign. And so this will, so we don't have anything to show you from what that'll be, but we're going to invest a little bit in that this year. What you'll see from a marketing perspective in media, we launched our campaign about a month ago. We'll have print ads, banner ads, native content, video, social. On the right, you'll see some of the publications and the outlets that we'll be advertising in. We are going to continue the use of the campaign we had last year. What if nature held us close? The copy is, what if nature set us free, pillowed us in powder, and blanketed us in sunlight, opened our eyes to fresh sheets of morning snow, and lulled us to sleep in the seas of infinite stars? Let us catch our dreams on every turn and release our voices to the wind. What if nature held us close? We did a slight change where we added the 50th logo to this, but in a sense, this is the ad we had last year. We don't think we placed it enough places that it's exhausted or tired or anything like that. We have a second version this year that speaks to our 50th, and it's what if the slopes told a story of mountains made of memories, words woven with snowflakes, and forests thick with laughter, where every peak is a page out of your history. If I said the story gets even better, would you celebrate with me? And that, right? It's pretty, isn't it?
Makes you want to cry.
So it's emotive, but it's a nice, I like the imagery of it. And this image you will see in a lot of places, in a lot of those outlets that really gear towards the 50th, and I'll show you an example of that. So with the spirit of this, we've done a lot of work in sort of the video, and so we've created a couple of short little videos. Let's see if this plays. I strike out with audio at all times, it seems. Darn it.
I think I got all of it.
You got it? Okay. Well, those of you at home, but I've got two more, so is there a way to make that work? Yes. Yes.
The low-tech
Plug in
way.
something.
The low-tech way. All right, should I try it again?
Now we know we got it.
All right. Let's see. So those two little 15-second spots, we run them a lot on social media. They're pre-roll to a lot of our ad campaign on digital displays. And so they're in that spirit of the Runaway with me. The first one was more sort of hard charging, and this one's more family oriented. But like this, we have 4 or 5 new ones this year, which is always fun. Looking at our winter events calendar, we kick off the winter season really with the 50th anniversary celebration. As I said, we go on to the holiday celebrations. In January, we're co-hosting with Aspen Skiing Company the U.S. Grand Prix. It's a ski and snowboard event. It's huge. It's the second to last to the Olympic qualifiers. It should be a lot of excitement. It's going to be 6 hours on NBC of televised broadcast from Snowmass, which will be great. Mardi Gras, we're going to continue to evolve. St. Patrick's Day, last year we didn't do a big effort on St. Patrick's Day because it was coincided with the World Cup in Aspen and the Michael Franti concert, and so we thought, let's not put a lot of eggs in that basket. And so we'll be doing more with St. Patrick's Day this year. We have the Hi-Fi concert series later in March as well. We hope to do a big closing weekend, and then monthly we're doing the Moonlit Treks. That is a sort of cooperative between the Snowmass Club, the Cross Country Center, Anderson Ranch, the chapel, and ourselves. And this year we're going to add Startlit Treks, which will be on the darkest night of the month, so that you can go out there, and we're talking about getting somebody who can come and talk about what you're going to see and putting a telescope out there. So that should be a lot of fun. I don't have the dates totally finalized yet, but hopefully we'll have those in the next week or so. And then we have the entire complement of the very important kid program, the VIK activities that'll take place every week. just to step on the events on anniversary weekend, so Friday, Mike alluded to it. It will be, if everybody who's bought a ticket will come, it'll be the busiest day Snowmass has ever seen. And we're 2 months out.
That's not an exaggeration.
That is not an exaggeration. It's not public. They don't want to talk about the number, but it'll be busier than the busiest day that anybody can remember. So that's fantastic. There's going to be a retro party up at Elk Camp on Friday night, and then fireworks afterwards. Should be a ton of fun. Hotel occupancy is already higher than we finished that weekend last year. So Sunday, Banana Days, Britta is here. Britta and Whitney are spearheading this, and Carmen Barber and Renee Flesher have volunteered. We will have 1,967 prizes, 1,967 bananas out on the hill and in the mall and in Base Village. We'll have some, let's put it this way, we'll have about 1,900 little prizes and about 67 big ones, including some very big ones. So we're super excited about that. It should be a lot of fun. And then that night will be the Golden Gala, which will be at the Viceroy. There is a wait list. Hopefully we'll clear some people from the wait list. It is sold out. And then we have worked on a film about our 50th anniversary that will premiere there. And I'll show you in a minute a little short version, a little intro to that we're using for marketing purposes now.
Rose?
Yes.
If people want to get on the wait list, who do they contact?
They can contact, the easiest thing would be to contact me at this point, and I'll forward it to Randy Woods is handling this.
Okay.
I could probably state his email if I look it up. I will get that.
Ransom Woods at Gmail. Is it Gmail? I'm looking at Britta. Or Comcast.
Yeah, it's RAN as in Nancy, SOM as in Mary, Woods with an S at the end, at comcast.net.
Thank you.
So that Saturday should be lots of fun. On Sunday, there'll be an on-mountain retro party up at Spider Savage with a cabin jump. The Aspen Skiing Company's Pipe and Park team is recreating a semblance of the old cabin jump and a rail jam, and there'll be a picnic up at Spider Savage. All weekend long, many restaurants and retailers are participating in this 50th anniversary specials. They're $19.67 and or $50 items. So great. They're up on our website already. Lots and lots of restaurants have participated. A lot of doing both. Like Il Poggio is doing a 4-course tasting menu for $50.
Oh my God.
Stew Pot's doing a 1967 soup salad dessert for 1967, or a family takeout for 50. With how they do the takeout for 50. So lots of fun ways of getting the community engaged. One thing, because we believe Friday will be incredibly busy, is we're going to be reaching out to all of our restaurant stakeholders to encourage them to start sort of après at 11 o'clock in the morning. It could be cold. It'll be dark at 4:45, so we want to make sure there's lots to do off the hill as well as on the hill that day. One of the things, just in the marketing of this, I showed you a little bit of the creative. We have targeted the Front Range a lot for the 50th because we feel that that's really the market for it, the drive-to market, more than the fly-to market. And so we decided to do an ad in 5280 magazine. It's this month's issue, which is the restaurant issue, which we chose because people keep it lying around because it has all the great restaurants in Denver. And so to promote this, we did a 2-page spread, which has that creative that I showed you. And each magazine has a see if you won, and 101 magazines actually have a golden ticket where you won. And if you didn't win, you can enter to win a sweepstakes to come come for the weekend. And we've actually gotten a ton of publicity on the golden ticket. And I can pass this around because it's kind of fun to see.
It's really fun. One of my girlfriends from Castle Rock called me and says, I went and bought tickets already for that weekend.
A lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, it'll be,
Staying at your house.
It'll be the busiest,
Tickets for
if
sale.
ticket sales are an indicator, it'll be our busiest day ever.
Yeah.
And that's 2 months out without counting season pass holders and anybody else who might come to ski. So that is, here's a picture of it up on the screen, but it's fun. So we worked with 5280 to put that golden ticket tip-in into about 100 magazines. As I mentioned, we put together a little video to help us promote the 50th.
We're in a snowstorm in the Rocky Mountains near Aspen, Colorado, at a brand new ski resort called Snowmass. The name of Snowmass really fits this resort because it's one of the largest resorts in the world.
It's fun, isn't it? At least I think it's fun. So we've had, we've been able to be creative, and we have developed all of these pieces for stakeholders to use and lodges to use to go out to their past guests. You should have gotten a mailer in your mailbox at some point this summer about the 50th, if you remember seeing that, just to get everybody everybody excited about it. On the group sales front, this is really sort of this winter and going forward. We've launched the Snowmass Scoop, which is a meeting planner, a group leader blast. We're going to be doing some in-market client events in Chicago, California, Texas, the East Coast, and Denver. Again, this is sort of like what's new and different, right? We're going to do more site trips and fam visits here in terms of making these group decision makers, having them come here. We feel that that's so effective. Once we get them in market, we really show them a good time. It was nice to hear Janice compliment the group that, with what her experience and her group's experiences were. We want to include, our group business is incredibly important to this community. This coming January, the American College of Cardiology will be here for the 49th year in a row.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, and like them, they're the most. There isn't anybody like them, but we have many, many, many groups who've been here 10 times, 15 times, and some of them come every year, and they've come for the past 10 years, and then some of them have been here 18 times, and they come every 2 years because they're on a rotation or something like that. So we are working with Anderson Ranch to develop what I call the Stanley Cup, some sort of recognition that we'll put out in public, so when those groups come here, we can add their name to the trophy, something fun to, I think we can open a bottle of champagne and display their plaque. And I just got back from vacation. I know there's been a lot of work done on that since I got, while I was away. I haven't seen anything of what it might look like, but the idea is that we will be able to add people, and we'll also be able to add next season groups that this season was an off year, but still are meaningful to us. So we want to recognize them and tie them into the 50th. And then another initiative that's we really want to grow our third-party sourcing relationships. We work with organizations that help plan meetings, and we've got great relationships with a few, and we want to expand that to make it a few more. So we'll put some resources on that. So this year, our winter bookings are good. We're down 2 groups, but we're up in number of guests coming, and the number of room nights they've booked are flat, pretty much, to last year, year to date. So that's year to date. But it looks like we'll have more people through in our group business. And that's kind of like looking at the winter, what's new and what's changing for the summer. We want to put some resources to enhancing the Fanny Hill concert experience a bit. The bottom part towards the stage, the ground is uneven, the porta potties are at an angle, so we want to make that better. In working with, again, our board, the recommendation that we do some weekly event up in Base Village, up at the mall. And so we're looking at Fridays and some sort of mall crawl or similar that will engage retailers, maybe put some music out there, not activate the stage, but something in the mall on Fridays, probably Fridays. We've put some money into developing a signage program for special events within the village, so that when you arrive here to come to the Scottish Festival or whatever, there's good signs on the Mullen and Base Village telling you where to go and how to get there and where's what that's going on. We felt that we could just do better on that. We have put some money in the budget for a potential Sports Illustrated swimsuit shoot for this summer. It would be
You're welcome.
exciting and lots of exposure. Let's go with there'll be lots of exposure. But we believe, I believe.
Gotta find humor.
I think we need some good judges on that one.
So the idea is it would be a way to get Snowmass recognized across a very broad audience as a summer destination. And it's very shotgun. A lot of our marketing is very rifle and highly targeted, and this is not. This is a big shotgun, get the name out there. We are a place to come, Snowmass Village is a place to come for the summer. If we had to choose between doing something like this in the winter, which they've done winter shoots, but we're known as a ski place. It's really to get that really broad-based shotgun approach out. So we've budgeted some money for that. We also want to explore getting the IMBA Gold certification for the mountain biking product. At this point, there's no budget allocated to that, but we have a bike committee. We're going to look into what would it take? Is there something that we might need to do there to make that happen? In terms of summer marketing next year, on the right, you'll see what the campaign we did this summer. We may not use the exact same campaign, but the exact same ad, but it'll be in that same spirit. We're not changing it this coming summer. We will continue to do in-market and out-of-market campaigns. We'll obviously focus on the destination and biking and hiking. We've added some resources to develop better and more diverse content in general. Our email marketing and social media will continue. Our website was totally relaunched this year, and we launched Hike Snowmass. So for next year, we don't have a big reskin or a relaunch of a new site plan, but it's really more maintenance of all 4 of our websites, because we have Bike Snowmass, Hike Snowmass.
Those sites get a lot of use.
They do, and you know what we find is when we go out and, again, all of our display marketing, all of our email marketing, online marketing is highly targeted. And when we take somebody who clicks on a bike ad to Bike Snowmass, which is really a microsite of Go Snowmass, so you can get back and forth really simply. They're more engaged because they're not going to the homepage of Go Snowmass that could be talking about anything. They're going to a bike page that's going to say, here are the trails, road or mountain. Here are some clinics and events coming up that are bike specific. So we provide stickier content. So they do. From the ad click through and then time on site. They outperform Go Snowmass, actually. Not in general, not in how many visits we go.
But do people that aren't getting there from an ad, do they find their way there?
Oh yeah, if you Google it, we've got AdWords, and so they're getting good traction.
Rose?
Yes.
Are we still doing Camp Snowmass? Is that, well, I call
Snowmass
it
Tourism doesn't do Camp Snowmass. Aspen Skiing Company runs something called Camp Snowmass.
No,
in the
that's
rec
not what I'm
center.
thinking about. We were attempting to link operators of other activities to
The Mass Pass.
Mass Pass.
Yes,
Is
yes.
that's what we call it, the Mass Pass?
Mass Pass.
Okay.
The Mass Pass is a 3 or 5 day sort of bundled
Yeah.
activity, yes, and we will continue to do that.
Has that been developing some legs and, more strength?
And I think it'll develop more legs when we can add, we've been talking to Aspen Skiing Company about adding their summer products to it. Right, which now they're gonna, so if one of the day options is one of their package days, whatever they come up with that pricing, I think that'll give it that much more impetus. But this summer was far better than last summer.
Okay.
So we still have a commitment to doing that.
Okay. That's called the Mass Pass, all right.
Yeah, Mass Pass. I mentioned the Sports Illustrated, and then we'll increase our international efforts and our proactive pitching and PR. We've allocated some resources to stakeholder communications. One bit of feedback that we get from stakeholders is that they're too busy to read our emails, that they have, that how can we help them educate their front line? So like, for example, this December, we're going to go to all of their frontline training. We'll have somebody in our staff go and tell them about what the schedule of events are, where they can get more, like, so if you work the front desk, what are the best websites to get information, on, because that's really where the best information lives, is on the website. And so we've put some resources to that. And then we're considering some options. So we have been doing a big summer research project every other year. And we are aligned with the Aspen Chamber, and then we've been sharing questions on each other's research because we do them in the same cycle. And so we're talking with them and with Aspen Skiing Company is to see if there's a way we should all do it together and divide up the research, output. Our data is public, and so is ACRA's data. SkiCo's data is not, so we'd have to figure out how we can slice and dice it so that the bit that they collect on, how was the food at Elk Camp isn't part of our report or something like that. But so we're looking at that, so there's maybe a shift in that. In the content development component, one thing that we want to do is, and I'm trying to see if I have this coming up, but I'm going to make sure to talk about it, is we're going to be what I call naming names. And so we've got an initiative around coming up with all sorts of technical term listicles of, it might be a list of what are the top 10 cheap eats in Snowmass, and what are the 10 best places to kiss, or 5 best rooms with a view, or 7 great amenities. And so what that does is, for the materials that we put out, it obviously gives a lot more texture than to say we've got 38 restaurants and they're all fabulous, right? That doesn't give you a lot. But if you say, here are the 5 après-ski things you shouldn't miss. You should do a shot ski at Slow Grooving and have fondue at the Edge and those kinds of things. And the reason I mention it is because I think that what we'll get with that, and we'll use them in blogs and online, and we're not going to do an ad about this, by the way, is that it just gives a lot of texture. And we'll make sure that we include, all the restaurants eventually. But not every list is going to have every stakeholder.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think we've erred historically on the side of, let's not mention one person because it doesn't include somebody else, right? And what that winds up is just being vanilla, right? Like, if you can't say, these are your most romantic restaurants, or these are your cheap eats, or here's some 3 or 4 après-ski things you should definitely put on your list. It's just like, yeah, we have après-ski everywhere. It doesn't say anything.
Rose, with TripAdvisor these days, which everybody basically uses, you can read and you can see the ratings of a institution, of a restaurant or a bar, but it doesn't necessarily give you what do you order, what's the best thing to order there, or what's the neatest drink, or right? And I think that's what you're trying to do, to take that one step beyond a TripAdvisor.
Right. And really try to differentiate us. So I sort of feel like if we come up with a list, and the numbers will be arbitrary. I mean, they're not going to all be 10, right? But if we say like 6 après-ski things that you shouldn't miss, and that's great. I mean, maybe the number 7. I don't,
Yeah.
But really just to help direct people into say, this is what makes us special. This is what gives us that stickiness and the granularity that is compelling, rather than just saying, there's 32 restaurants, 38 during the day. Good. I don't know.
Well, it's the same reason why, people, they'll say, we're coming to Snowmass, we're coming to Aspen, what do you recommend? Yep. And it's the same thing you would pass to your friends.
Right.
And
I believe that certainly with restaurants, it's a little harder with retailers, and it's a little harder with lodges. With restaurants, we can be inclusive. We can get to all of them because there's something that everybody offers that's a little different, even though, so what are the best grab-and-go places? That's great. And maybe one of the grab-and-go places, there really isn't any other category they'd fill in. But you could have a grab-and-go a cookie up for Pizza, or Pasquale's Taste of Philly, or Fuel, and they're not going to make it the most romantic meals, right? That's just not going to happen. So anyway, I want to make sure we may wind up hearing from some people about that, right?
Well, it's always good to be a
Yeah,
test market,
so
yeah.
I wanted to raise that. Looking at next summer's events, we're working on the next year's calendar now. Feedback from this year was relatively positive. I would say the concert feedback is that we want to take all our concerts back to Thursdays, with the exception of the craft beer, which is our opening weekend, which we did that Saturday concert, which the event sold out. We did it in conjunction with Ragnar. It was kind of a big hit. And then Def Camp, which has traditionally been on a Saturday. So other than that, our concerts will be on Thursday. I think the community will be very pleased
Yeah, I think so.
with that statement. Hey, we don't want to do any more paid shows on Fanny Hill. Let's not do that again. That didn't go so well, so let's not do it. We all seem to like, and everybody, we got great feedback on the 4th of July community celebration, so we want to evolve that, make it better. We had planned for fireworks. We weren't able to do fireworks, but I think that the event, even without fireworks, was successful. I mentioned earlier this adding the weekly mall event on Fridays, maybe Fridays, up at the mall, and the signage, so that's kind of redundant.
Rose, did I miss it, or did you not say anything about the rodeo?
I did not say anything about the rodeo. The rodeo, I'm just trying to highlight what's different. So the rodeo will be, JS is back. I mean, all of the event lineup, but our support of the rodeo is consistent.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it, make sure I think it should be mentioned in the marketing side of it,
Oh, no, yes, it absolutely is mentioned in many, many things we do. We think that that's one of the iconic things that we offer. We're always very hesitant to program anything against it on Wednesday nights because we feel like they do such a good job. I'm a huge fan of
it's going to rain on Wednesday nights.
This year was
Yeah,
awesome.
but they had a huge turnout this year.
We had one rainy day, I think, this year.
More than sellout, a couple nights.
Let's see, so our group business for next summer is, our groups are down by 4, but the number of guests and the number of roommates are up incredibly, and that's because our biggest group this summer was like 576 people, and we've got like 6 of those groups next year.
Good.
So our group numbers are bigger next year, so fewer groups, more people, more rooms. So I'm not at all concerned about the minus 15% on the first one because our plus 146% and plus 76% more than make up for that. So we're
Even with construction, you're not having any pushback?
We have been, and we've been able to augment our marketing with the fund with East West, and which is good. That's part of the, and so far, yeah, we haven't had any pushback. So then what's new and what's changing year round? Our reserves are moving to 25%.
Yeah.
I mentioned already improving stakeholder communications and then developing the context, the naming names initiative, as I like to call it. I knew it was coming up. So how are we going to pay for those shifts? So I just kind of made a couple slides to highlight the shifts in budget that you'd seen our budget for this. So contract services out of the marketing fund was increased by $25,000 to allow for this more enhanced stakeholder communications program. Part of that will be doing things like postering the village. We contract with a service that posters the valley, but not necessarily the village. So we want to enhance that and, again, be out in front of concierge and frontline employees more. Our summer marketing increased $12,000 to develop more content and enhance distribution. Our winter marketing increased $33,000 to promote s'mores and the monthly events, as well as the new campaign concepting. And we want to continue the local mailings. So winter special events, we added $30,000 for s'mores. That's not the cost of s'mores. We had budgeted some money for s'mores that we did twice a week, so that's additive. We added $25,000 for a 50th replacement event next December of 18. We added $15,000 to support a closing weekend event.
Great, great.
We allocated $50,000 from group sales to support the Grand Prix. Our total contribution is $100,000. That's 50 from group sales and 50 from marketing funds. Similarly, with group sales to support the X Games, again, a total contribution from the town of 100, but we split that, and that's how we funded these other things. For summer special events, we added $30,000 to fund that weekly mall crawl or similar. And we added $30,000, 15 from group sales and 15 from marketing to enhance the concert experience and stabilize the porta potties and what we can do to fix that front area. $12,500 increased in the signage to enhance the signage for special events. We increased PR by 60 for the possible Sports Illustrated shoot. We increased it by 25 for additional proactive pitching internationally in New York. And then group sales, as noted above, we increased the support for groups by that 100 that went to the Grand Prix and the X Games. We reduced marketing under group sales by $21,000. We had budgeted $21,000 last year because with the website redo, we totally redid the group pages, and we don't need to do that again because we spent that money already. And then overall, other reductions in group sales came from, there's some savings in rent and contract services and offsite. We had a storage facility we were able to get rid of because the time had passed with VRA documents. We could let go of them, and thank you, Rhonda, again, for helping us clean that out and making sure we didn't throw out anything that we weren't supposed to. But anyway, so those are the big major budget shifts. So when you look at the marketing fund, all wrapped up, on the left is what the 17 budget looked like. On the right is what the 18 proposed budget looks like. And then I've got these nice little fancy pie charts for the group sales funds as well. And I am happy to answer any questions or expand on anything that you want to know about.
I don't have any questions. I think that, damn, it looks exciting.
Yeah, it looks nice.
You make everything so much fun.
So much fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Look at these marshmallows. Come on.
I mean, where's our marshmallows tonight? No.
Well, no, this is too big. This is the first go of our marshmallows, so.
So some of those larger events like Tough Mudder, they kind of
Well,
gone.
funny you should ask. So today we had, so Tough Mudder wants to come back next year.
Oh.
Yes, interesting, I would say. We did really well this summer, right? So our occupancy numbers so we are going back, hopefully we're going back to them before they watch this on TV. With the dates that we can have them, and hopefully that'll work for them because.
Why do they want to come back? I thought they loved Beaver Creek or wherever
they went to Copper.
Okay.
We are apparently we, not Snowmass Tourism, we, the overall community, are just much more welcoming and easier to work with. So, so when you look at our occupancy rates this year, this past summer. There aren't a lot of windows where we can take them. And so we're going back to them with a couple of dates that would work for us, and let's see if those dates work for them. You know, we monitored, we did lose some occupancy the weekend that they were here from versus last year. We were definitely, you know, down about 20, 25% from that weekend last year.
When were they here the last time?
The weekend after Labor Day. It was, they were here 3 years the weekend after Labor Day.
Okay.
And so our weekend after Labor Day was down about 20%, but we were still in the mid-70s in occupancy instead of in the mid-90s. And so, but when you look at, this is going to be, anyway, our numbers are really high for the weekends. So all of those top bars is where our weekend, so we're seeing if we can put them in one of the ones with low bars, or maybe low bars. So, so we'll see. We'll see what we can, if they, it's nice to, you know, be asked to the dance again.
Are those events starting to lose their luster a little bit?
You know, when, I think so. so. I think they've changed it. When you go to the Tough Mudder website, they have far, far more events planned than they've ever had in the past. So I don't know if they, honestly, I don't know if they've changed their formula or they're trying to, make it a smaller footprint, like a more effective footprint. And they are doing tons of events, so.
So how was the car race?
The car race, I heard one complaint. I got one phone call and about one negative phone call and about 25 high fives, emails, like that was the best event ever. And so we would like to do that event again. We have a debrief internally with the town to get everybody's feedback on, from all the departments coming up next week. Maybe it's later this week. And I think it's a lot of work to put on. And so what we would like to do is, again, we have to take in everybody's input from the community, from the hotels, and from everybody. But I'd like to see that evolve so that Saturday is the car show with the wine festival. I thought that went really well. And then do the race on Sunday and a little piece of Monday.
And I think, because I feel like all the kids were in school, unless you were going to pull your kid out of school, which we weren't, caught the end of it.
Yeah.
But I think kids would like that.
Well, and one thing I heard from so many people at the car show is that these drivers are hobbyists, and they let the kids sit in the car, they let them take pictures, and the idea of coming back to watch them race is really appealing after you've met the drivers, and so we need to figure out, and then what we could do is possibly, especially Monday, is shorten the time of the race. But from a lodging perspective, we would get those people here an extra night on a Sunday night, and probably on Monday night as well, which is not really a busy night for us typically. And they think they can, at least increase their participation by 50%.
That's amazing.
So, we have to be conscious of, all the people who are not here for it, making sure. I personally directed traffic over Woodbridge all morning and was frankly, I did. I had a yellow vest and everything.
I know,
I was there, I saw you.
Yeah.
I came by several times
saw
just
you
to see him.
And I was surprised, just because I'd never done that before.
But you chatted so well.
We never really had a big line.
Yeah, I know.
We never really had a big line of people. But, there are a ton of workers who come up every day, whether it's not necessarily full, like contractors that come up. One person was delivering a tropical fish to an aquarium. Don't you love that? I love that. Anyway, so to make sure that we're less impactful for the people who have to get in and out of town. But I think overall, again, the ratio of coolest event ever to complaints to me was about 25 to 1. I don't know if that is.
I heard a lot of high fives.
Yeah.
Except one woman who was late for her hair appointment.
Yeah.
She should have read the notices.
Well, and it was on a Thursday this year, right?
Get over it.
So, and I think the parking lots were probably closed in the numbered lots too long.
The challenge we had is that there was a group in on Tuesday, which was the Colorado 500. That the other car rally.
The motorcycle race?
Motorcycle.
No, they were vintage. It's called the Colorado 500.
Yes, Colorado 500.
And they're beautiful vehicles. That's beautiful. And they had, they were staying at the Westin.
Yes.
And they had requested, Weston's been in transition and whatever. They wanted to park all the vehicles. So we wound up having a double requirement of closing numbered lots, because we closed numbered lots for the Tuesday Colorado 500, and you have to you can't close them that day. You've got to close them before so that they're empty. And so we, if we don't have that other group that's trying to park their cars in a dedicated lot, then we wouldn't have had that, I think, as much of an issue, because the open lots, I think, were fine.
Yeah.
It's just that we had to close, I don't remember if it was 8 and 9 that we closed. No, the 9 and 10 for them. I don't remember which lot we closed.
Well, it was, I think it was 5 through 9 or whatever. but regardless,
It's an issue that needs to be talked about and figured out.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's fine if you close them, so long as they're being utilized, but they're often empty, and,
Yeah.
employees are like parking all over the place. But being on a Thursday, I mean, kind of going to your point, if you drag it over to a Monday, or if you make it a Thursday, Friday event, because what I heard was a lot of people went, oh, you're having a car race? And it's like, I want to come see it. And it's like, well, it was today. You missed it.
Right.
They wanted to come back the next day and see it. So I think if we did it for shorter amounts of time and did it over a couple of days, it might be good.
Yeah, and I think if we do it that's why we were thinking for that exact same reason, Bill, that we do the car show first.
Yep.
So many people who go to the wine festival will see the cars. And there might be an opportunity to combine some of the cars closer to the wine instead of just over.
Yes,
Hey,
across the street.
We've gotten some, we just need to explore that.
Yep.
And to see how we could manage that, because then if you see the cars, I think you'll be much more motivated. None of us really knew what to expect. Right? I mean, I was on a call last February about big bore and small bore cars, and I'm Googling all this stuff, like what's the open wheel design, F-based, V-based. I know what all that means now, by the way.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a question in the back of the room.
You have to go to the microphone and introduce yourself again, please. Oh, you can use that one. I think there's one there. Yeah, I think that works. That should work.
Very official now. No, but one thing I missed out too, and I didn't know about it. I just diverted when I drove by. But if this was the first year, have you ever considered to try to get a sponsor to combine the two, the car race and the wine? I know for a fact
The wine
Bonham's
is the
Auction
Rotary
House,
event.
the world's largest, exotic car.
The Snowmass Village Rotary is the one that does
Oh,
the
they do,
wine
okay.
festival.
They do the wine festival?
Yes, we do the wine festival.
And you can't have a sponsor?
We do have sponsors for that event.
Okay, no, what I was just going to say, though, for the
About
cars, to tie the two
$75,000.
to make it kind of world famous, Bonham's would love to get in here. They're the largest exotic car auction house in the world, and they also do wine, and they very much would love to get more involved in the
Drinking and
Aspen
driving.
Snowmass community in the summer.
No, we do that the other way. We always say, drive
Dri-
and then wine.
Then, dri- oh, okay.
Cars and wine. And every poster, every ad, cars and wine, not wine and cars.
Yeah, give your.
No, that's a good, yes. We had a car auction here last year. A big car
No,
auction.
not to have an auction, but they sponsor races. You don't have to commercialize it. But to get them to come in and bring in fabulous collectors from all over.
These
Wait
guys
till they
brought in
see the
Haggerty
course.
this year.
Pardon?
You know Haggerty?
Wait till they see the course.
Haggerty Insurance, they insure all the,
Okay.
a lot of, that's who, the
I don't
car
have those
race
type of cars.
people, the car race people brought in a couple sponsors.
Okay, well, it just might be, they would love to get involved in the community, and I think you find you might have a lot of resources. That was
Well, thank you. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay, any other questions for marketing? You have anything else, Rose?
I guess I would just want to say thank you all. Well, I guess you haven't approved our budget yet, but I'd like to just thank our board who, I'm going to thank you in advance for approving our budget and plan, but also our board who puts in so much time. And it really, I say this a lot, it's a team effort. I've got a very great team in tourism, but the whole town, we couldn't do the events without all the departments in the town working together. So thank you for your leadership and encouraging that support. I think the event strategy has been super successful. You can see we've put more into events overall, both winter and summer, because we do think it's working, it's effective, but it really does take that dedication of the entire
It does,
town.
it takes a lot of people.
So thank you.
Well, it's also thank you to your staff and all the town staff.
Real quickly, Rose, can local people buy the commemorative lift ticket in advance?
Yeah, you can buy it online right now.
Oh, they can? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I bought.
I believe that you will, if you pick up your season pass in Snowmass, you will be able to have it look like the commemorative ticket.
Oh, good.
Only in Snowmass,
Only
like
in
for
Snowmass.
season pass holders. So there are a million fun details going on with that 50th. It's going to be a great way to kick off the season.
Good stuff. Not to suggest we need to move on, but we do need to move on. We've got a budget and then we have an executive session yet tonight.
Thanks, Rose.
Now it
I mean,
works.
just to kind of, on the budget, since Rose was the start of the budget discussion, continuing it, last Friday we met for however many hours we met for. And then right now, the budget is scheduled to come before you for public hearing on November 6th. And then we've got a couple of small tweaks that have been developed throughout the budget process. Nothing overly significant, but I guess tonight's discussion is to make sure you heard the budget, the marketing tourism budget, and then to see if there's anything else we need to be preparing for November 6th. Otherwise, there'll be a few, like I said, a couple small changes that have come up over the course of the last several weeks, but it'll be largely presented as has been presented to you from the beginning.
So one of the, I am going to bring this up. One of the research elements that we as council members have asked Clint to look at is a potential salary adjustment for all of council people that would become effective after the next election. And we did that purposely in that there hasn't been an adjustment since 2006. So it's been a long time since any adjustments have occurred for town council members and mayor. So we did get the data. And of course, all this is public information. So one little note that I asked Clint to explore, and he's working on getting the detail, was versus an increase. I'm just throwing it out there, guys. Was to look at Aspen provides a single employee health insurance highly deductible plan, HDR. Well, we heard about it last week from our human resources director, where they pay a stipend based on a single employee rate. So I don't know what those rates are, and I don't think our town, we don't have those various cafeteria type plans with a high deductible program. So this is a work in progress, and we'll need to have something before the 6th if we want to see an adjustment. And I'm looking to my fellow colleagues. Tom?
Yes?
Yes.
I'm not gonna object.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever penciled out what you really get paid?
It's probably like ambassadoring.
I didn't know we got paid.
No, but it's like a joke. When I used to have to pay for babysitters and I wasn't getting paid for doing that, it was quite ridiculous.
Right.
It would have been cheaper just to buy the ski pass.
It's an honor to serve.
It is.
It's an honor to serve the
But
community.
everybody
we,
needs an
we can
adjustment.
get those dollars for sure. We'll get that put together for you. The budget implications, because you can't have anything occur before November 20th,
Right.
are probably minimal, but you can have the full picture. We can develop something.
Yeah, if you
Right.
could still work on that, Clint, that'd be very helpful. Now,
Then, I mean, and so that was,
DC.
yeah, I know. I think we're
You're trying to hide that, aren't you?
Well, I'm looking at the clock, and
so if you, let me give you,
we need to look at EOTC.
let me take 5 minutes on the EOTC update. You've got the, John Kruger emailed you the packet last Friday. Rhonda's gonna put it on iLegislate for you by tomorrow, so you can have it in your packet that way. If you don't have your John Kruger packet in front of you, I'm just gonna, there's a number of votes that are gonna be coming up. One, the way that this has been set up is to approve the base budget, or consider the base budget, and then there's what they are calling ongoing or operational additions. Those include, in the order that they're gonna be considered, We Cycle, $100,000, it's a continuation of the program from last year. There is the town's request for the increased service on Brush Creek for an ongoing cost of $294, and then a request largely being driven by the county for a regional transportation planner position for $160,000. Those are ongoing, if passed, be expected to going forward in the future, and then a number of one-time capital expenses going down. Buttermilk pedestrian undercrossing analysis, that project was originally $800,000 in last year's, And it's been pared back to make sure to do some more feasibility work and see if it's really almost a demand analysis to see what that demand is and see if the price is worth it to get underneath Buttermilk there, or underneath 82 at Buttermilk. The buses have already been approved. The next one, $50,000, we've asked to be put in there for some initial design work for our terminus, the Rafta terminus. We did a bunch of work 10 or 12 years ago on designs.
Yep.
This is kind of getting that up to speed and making sure that in fact everything's true, and so that if it does hold true throughout 18, then we could really put some real design money in 2019 and get that project up and going forward. And then the last one is kind of a joint request of $50,000. And that's the idea, it came up actually, I think, with the council, I don't recall which meeting exactly, but it's the variable board, is it when we were talking about the,
Right. The messaging.
the parking plan.
Yes.
And so this would be an idea of, again, this 50,000 is working with CDOT, trying to figure out where the boards could go, how would electricity get there, who would control it. In past DOTC meetings, we've talked about having the board be able to flash, park at the intercept lot, you could be in downtown in 10 minutes, or drive and it's 45 minutes, and have all that kind of information flashing on that. And this is because no one's actually tackled a project like this. This is to kind of just kick it off and see what it would even take to get it underway. That's that request. Obviously the request, in my opinion, that we got to focus on the most is the increased service on Brush Creek. We'll see how it comes back. From what I understand, there might be some discussion about, should that be what the OTC refers to as above the line or below the line, similar terminology that we use. We'll see how it comes back. Tom Oken, in his analysis, when you look at the budget, shows that it's affordable going forward, and even funding all these projects, there are dollars, about $1 million a year, that can still be available for capital going forward. So when we as staff, all three entities work together, I think it's fair to say that we all thought all these projects were good. And so I think we're all, the staff, we are supportive of it. I would expect the Brush Creek discussion to have some caveats along the lines of maybe we should just approve, this is what I've heard, that the EOT should just approve it for a year and then go back to RAFTA and talk to RAFTA again to see if, that service could be offset from the EOTC responsibility to RAFTA. I think those are all discussions that could come up on Thursday. I think the important thing for us is to make sure we get it funded and operational so we can figure out how successful it can be. And it is budgeted, it's shown to be affordable, and so I think we're in a pretty good position taking it forward. The last thing I'll say, just keeping it to 5 minutes, and this is a procedural thing, is we obviously discuss on Thursday. There's it's a straw vote basically by all the boards on Thursday, but the actual budget's not adopted until a resolution's prepared and it comes back here. So it's strongly encouraged that if you're going to vote in the affirmative, or whichever way you vote on Thursday, you vote that way when it comes back. But if we're not comfortable, if something's trending in the wrong direction or whatever, there's always that opportunity when it comes back here to vote differently. I don't endorse that, so I'm not saying to do that. That is not what I'm saying. But I think we need to make sure that on Thursday the discussion is set up so that when it comes back for the real vote, it's lined up correctly.
And you know what's interesting, and I asked this at the RAFT meeting the other day, is we don't have any budget costs or budget considerations yet for the Aspen Mobility Lab.
Correct. From what Aspen's announced, in our staff meetings with them, is they expect that they are going to take all those mobility lab expenses upon themselves.
Okay, in part.
Well, and they're doing fundraising and whatnot, but they purposely have said they're not coming to the OTC for it.
Because there's something that seems to be an overlap. WeCycle has all the bike stations, and part of the mobility lab in Aspen is to have free bikes all over town. So it suggests or puts forth a notion there may be duplication.
Two operations.
And
two bike operations.
less use of WeCycle that costs money. So the thought was, if we could find out that piece of data, perhaps we could move one of the WeCycle stations, or several that sit in Aspen, over to Snowmass to get us started in the WeCycle program.
So we've had some very initial conversations with Recycle, and what I understand is all the capital, all the docking stations, all the bikes themselves, in Aspen were paid for by businesses and the city. And
Oh,
so
okay.
whether, if we could just, I don't know that we'd be allowed to pick up that capital and bring it here. I am confident in saying that if we were able to develop our own capital bike stations and pay for that, that this 100,000 could be applied towards that, and, you know, we'd have to have further discussions with them. But I think it's fair to say it's going to be up to us to pay for that capital to make it happen here. If we
It's an
want to.
issue I'm gonna raise, because I asked it at RAFTA the other day as well.
Clint, what's the regional transportation planner?
So that, I think that's an item, again, that we as all the staffs think is a good idea. It's, right now, a lot of the planning efforts fall to the city of Aspen. Kruger leads a lot of it. And he's got a day job also.
Yeah.
And this is a position that would help the EOTC track all these regional issues, take all the data that we've got from transit and transportation, and make sure that we're addressing all these things holistically, so they're not falling on a single organization, but the EOTC collectively, all three organizations would have equal representation. There's no, eliminates bias, and it gives one more person more time to focus on these big issues that I'll get part of someone's job now, but
So this would be a position that reported to EOTC as a group, and it was not subject to any one of the entities.
Yeah, I think we'd probably have the count, it's still to be determined, the dollars need to be approved, but I think the way we'd set it up legally was it would report to the county but as a fiscal agent, but policy-wise, the person would report to all three boards equally.
And
Or-
it gets into the relationship with RAFTA, and are they the regional?
Yeah, and there's been some concern about that, about,
Yeah.
Ideally, it'd be great if this position worked for RAFTA and if this regional was from Aspen all the way down to Glenwood. We couldn't figure out a way to get that done. And so we said, let's just start with this here locally. We know we can fund it, and then get the ball rolling that way. Another one would be intercept lot. Someone really doing a lot of that planning that affects all the organizations equally,
Yes.
rather than just having one organization lead that effort.
Okay. Any questions? Is everybody gonna be there
Yeah. So that's the main thing, is the budget?
Thursday
It's
night?
the only thing, I think. If
Thursday
that's
night at 4
Thursday at 4.
in Aspen.
In Aspen.
4 o'clock in Aspen.
Yep. Okay, next item is updates from all of you and reports, and please be brief, or else delay it to our next meeting.
I will wait for the next meeting, since I have a core meeting Thursday morning before the EOTC meeting.
I have nothing. How's that brief?
I do have updates from the RAFTA meeting. Where did I put it? Don't tell me I left it in the car. I'm gonna pass. On over to Bill.
I don't have anything.
Alyssa?
I'm good.
I didn't bring it with me, all my notes. Okay, we're gonna move on. I know we approved some grant money for, it seems to me that if you want a project done, you apply for a grant, and then RAFTA becomes part of the grant. So the trail, the WOVA Trail, was approved based on a grant of $10,000. And then they've got other funding entities. And there was another grant in Glenwood Springs that got approved with other funding support. Preliminary budget was supported. We did talk about the 2018 ballot initiative. And several people feel that we need to put it on the ballot, and I think I mentioned it at the budget meeting on Friday. And the only way that they would support Snowmass, Brush Creek, was to tell people that's what you're gonna get here in Snowmass if you vote for this initiative. So I think Clint's putting it in the budget for EOTC is a very smart strategy, and really push that one for all of us. Other than that, you passed?
Yes.
Okay,
We're good.
let's move on. Town council will now meet in executive session to CRS 24-6-4024 and Snowmass Village Municipal Code 245C to specifically discuss one item, personnel matters, except if the employee who is subject of the session has requested an open meeting pursuant to CRS 24640224FL and Snowmass Village Municipal Code 245C6. Provided there is an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the quorum present at this meeting to hold an executive session and for the sole purpose of considering item A above. Provided further that no adoption of any proposed policy, position, resolution, regulation, or formal action shall occur at the executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in support?
Aye.
Okay, approved. We will reconvene this session after we complete the executive session. Thank you very much. I've read this book. It's fabulous. Let's talk about how long.